The most horrifying thing in this mafia story isn't murder. It's the moment a daughter realizes she had a price. Dominic believed he was building power through an arranged marriage, but what he was really nurturing was a cycle of violence born from fear, silence, and betrayal. Serafina wasn't a bride, she was collateral. And when the truth surfaced, the story stopped being about a mafia alliance and became something much darker, a father watering the seed of hatred with his own daughter's suffering.
Dominic Varley's kingdom was built on pure fear and bloody backroom deals. He never gave up an inch of control, not until the night his new wife physically recoiled from him. The marriage was supposed to be a straight-up transaction, sign the contract, secure the alliance, and collect the prize. But Serafina Vale wasn't the asset he planned for. She was a terrified lamb being led to her own execution. When that finally hit Dominic, he faced a game-changing choice. Take what the deal gave him, or trash his entire ruthless creed. A decision that was guaranteed to absolutely wreck them both. Let's watch this train wreck unfold. And as we get into it, drop me a comment and let me know where you're watching from tonight. Now let's set the scene. The Armory Club was a permanent scar on Lower Manhattan that just wouldn't heal. All dark wood paneling and deep red velvet. It was a snake pit for men whose bargains died in the daylight. At the bar stood Dominic Varley, his drink forgotten, his eyes missing nothing. He'd owned this club for 6 years and most of the guys in it for way longer. You look wound tight. Marcus Chen, Dominic's oldest friend and his resident conscience, appeared at his side. Big night. It's just a signature. Dominic's voice was flat, totally empty of emotion. No different from any other deal, except this one comes with a wife. Dominic didn't bother replying. The marriage contract had been a brutal 3-month negotiation. The Vale family controlled the shipping lanes through 5 critical ports, routes Dominic needed for his expansion. Serafina's dad, Aldo Vele, had been losing money for years and was desperate enough to offer up his own kid as collateral. It was a stone-cold, calculated play. Marcus just watched him. Have you ever actually met her, this Serafina? Once, 2 years ago, at some charity thing. Dominic tried to recall a face, but got nothing but a blur. She barely said a word. And you're still marrying her. I'm securing a strategic advantage. The girl is just a clause in the contract. The excuse sounded hollow, even to him. But Dominic had built his entire existence on cold math like this. To him, emotion was a flaw. Affection was a liability someone could use against you. It was a harsh lesson beaten into him by a father who saw his own children as assets and viewed love as nothing but a weakness. The club door swung open. Aldo Vele marched in, with his 2 most loyal guys trailing behind him, both looking old and desperate. Aldo himself looked smaller since their last meeting, his expensive suit now too big for a frame worn down by stress. Varelli. Aldo's handshake was way too firm, a weak attempt to project power he didn't have anymore. Everything is set. Serafina is upstairs with her mother. The contract was all squared away this morning. My lawyers gave it the green light. The smile plastered on Aldo's face was completely dead in the eyes. You'll have total control of the shipping lanes within 48 hours, and Serafina, well, she's been made aware of her duty. Something about that last part felt wrong to Dominic, but he pushed the feeling away. Then our business is done. Not quite. Aldo gestured to the private elevator. The ceremony is in 20 minutes. A small thing, just like we discussed. Only family and a few witnesses. Dominic gave a short, sharp nod. He'd insisted on privacy. The less of a show it was, the easier it was to remember this was just a transaction. The elevator climbed in a thick, heavy silence. When the doors opened, Dominic stepped into a room that looked completely alien. The armory's top floor had been twisted into some sick parody of a wedding. White flowers, dim lighting, and chairs lined up in perfect, sterile rows. A small group of people were scattered around, their quiet chatter dying the second Dominic appeared. He recognized a few faces. Victor, his head of security, was by the windows. His Aunt Teresa, the only family he tolerated, was watching him with an expression that looked a lot like pity. The rest were Vales, their family and cronies, all staring at Dominic with barely concealed terror. Good! Terror made people predictable. An older woman, who had to be Aldo's wife, stepped toward him. "Mr. Varelli, I'm Catherine Vale. We met a long time ago." "Mrs. Vale." Dominic's nod was formal and cold. "Serafina will be ready in a moment." "She's just—" Catherine's hands were knotted up. "She's a bit nervous. This all happened very fast for her." "We all know what this is." Dominic's voice was like steel. "I trust she understands what's expected of her." Catherine flinched at his tone. "She knows her duty." There was that word again. Duty. It sat in Dominic's stomach like a lead weight, a feeling he couldn't quite place. Marcus came over with 2 glasses of champagne. "For the happy couple," he muttered, his tone carefully blank. He held one out to Dominic, who just set it on a table, untouched. "Where's the judge?" "Judge Morrison is here. Aldo called in a favor," Marcus said, lowering his voice. "Are you absolutely sure about this? It's not too late to—" "It's done," Dominic cut him off. "The contract is signed." "Contracts can be torn up." Dominic spun to face his friend. "Why are you fighting me on this?" "Because I've known you for 20 years, and I've never seen you this disconnected from anything, which is really saying something." Marcus met his gaze without flinching. "This isn't like moving product or taking over territory. This is a person. A person who agreed to the terms." "Did she?" Marcus shot back, his voice low. "Or did her father agree for her?" Before Dominic could even think of an answer, the quiet murmur in the room changed. His head snapped toward a small dressing room down the hall, and for a second he literally forgot how to breathe. Serafina Vale was standing in the doorway, and she looked like a ghost, nothing like the vague image in his memory. 2 years ago, she'd been a nobody in a crowded room, unnoticed, forgettable. Now she was wrapped in a simple white dress that should have looked elegant, but instead seemed to be swallowing her whole. Her dark hair was pulled back from a face so pale it looked almost see-through in the dim light. But it was her eyes that completely floored him. They were filled with raw, unfiltered terror. She wasn't scared of him. She was scared of the very air in the room. Her eyes darted around like a cornered animal desperate for an escape route. Her hands were crushing a small bouquet, her knuckles bone white. When Catherine reached out to fix her dress, Serafina flinched so hard the entire room fell dead silent. This wasn't a bride with a case of the jitters. This was pure, unadulterated panic. Dominic felt a massive shift deep inside him, a feeling he immediately tried to kill. This was the deal. The girl knew what she was signing up for. Whatever fear she was feeling now was her own problem to deal with. And yet, as Aldo grabbed her arm to lead her down the makeshift aisle, Serafina stumbled. Her father's grip tightened like a vice, yanking her forward with shocking force, and Dominic watched her bite her lip hard enough to draw a drop of blood. She was trembling, a tremor so bad it shook her entire body. The ceremony itself was a complete blur. Judge Morrison was reciting words Dominic had heard a million times, giving this whole sham a fake sense of legitimacy. Dominic said his lines when he was supposed to, his voice a flat monotone. When the judge turned to Serafina, asking if she took Dominic as her husband, the silence felt like it lasted forever. Her voice completely shattered. She tried again. I do. It was the sound of total and utter surrender. The judge pronounced them married. He was supposed to kiss her now. It was tradition. But as he leaned in, Serafina violently turned her head so his lips barely brushed her cheek. Her entire body was as stiff as a statue. A pathetic, half-hearted round of applause went through the room. Aldo looked like he'd just won the lottery. Catherine looked heartbroken. Marcus looked like he was about to say something he'd regret. And Serafina, she looked like she might just turn to dust and blow away. The reception was, thankfully, brief. Dominic had vetoed dancing, cake, and all the other wedding nonsense. What was left was an hour of forced conversation and untouched drinks, while Serafina sat like a statue in a chair against the wall, a deserted island no one went near. He watched her from across the room. She hadn't moved in 20 minutes or said a word to anyone. Her mother had tried once, whispering something that made Serafina's eyes well up with tears she refused to let fall. She's terrified of you. Victor appeared beside him, silent as always. She doesn't know me. Maybe that's the problem. Victor had worked for Dominic for 15 years. He'd earned the right to be blunt. You know the stories they tell about you on the street, the legends. I don't care about rumors. You should. Especially when your wife is looking at you like you're about to kill her. Dominic's jaw went tight. She'll adjust. Will she? Victor's question just hung there, dripping with doubt. Or will she just learn to suffer quietly? Before Dominic could reply, Aldo showed up, plastered with a politician's smile and the glassy eyes of a drunk. Well, Varelli, my congratulations. I'm sure you will take excellent care of my daughter. The way he said it, like Serafina was some vintage car he'd just sold, made a cold rage start to build in Dominic's gut. The shipping lanes are yours tomorrow. At that, Aldo's grin got even wider. I have all the documents ready. You'll have complete operational control by noon. And Serafina, well, she comes with her own instruction manual. Her father, Aldo, claims she's been trained perfectly. He whispers she knows her wifely obligations and won't complain once, all thanks to her mother's instruction. Dominic's hands ball into fists. He snaps. Our business is done. Aldo just laughs, slaps his shoulder, and says he'll leave them to get acquainted. He strolls off, and Dominic is hit with a primal urge to destroy something. His man Victor warns him, Boss, give her a second. But Dominic cuts him off. I know what this is. Only for the first time, he really has no clue. He was expecting a partner in the game, someone raised in the same brutal world. Instead, he got a terrified girl who only saw a monster when she looked at him. And maybe she had a point. As the party wound down, the congratulations felt more like condolences. Marcus cornered him last, his voice a low growl. I'm only saying this once. That girl is broken by fear. What you're planning for tonight is not your business. It is when I see you making choices that leave permanent marks. Marcus's stare was like steel. You have the shipping lanes, you won. Don't shatter her just 'cause you can. Even monsters like us have limits we don't cross. Leave. Marcus was gone, his exit a final silent verdict. The hall emptied, leaving Dominic, Serafina, and Victor. Victor, sensing the tension, dipped out, mumbling about security. A crushing silence fell between them. Serafina was frozen in her chair, staring at the gold ring on her finger, a shackle Dominic had chosen without a second thought. Her breathing was fast and shallow. Dominic moved toward her slowly, like approaching a cornered animal. "It's time to go." His voice made her flinch, but she stood, her body barely holding her up. She wouldn't meet his gaze, or maybe she couldn't. His black Mercedes was idling outside, screaming power and control. Victor held the door open. Serafina dove into the back, pressing against the far window as if trying to phase through the glass. Dominic got in beside her. The door shut with a heavy thud, like a vault being sealed. They drove across Manhattan in total silence. The city lights flashed across her face, highlighting the tear tracks she'd stopped trying to hide. It looked like she had given up completely. "Serafina," his voice made her jump. "Look at me." With painful slowness, she turned her head. Her eyes met his for the first time since the ceremony, and the emptiness he saw there sucker punched him. It wasn't just fear, it was resignation, an acceptance of the horror she was sure was about to happen. "I will not harm you." The words were meaningless. She didn't believe him for a second. "Do you understand? I am not—" "I understand my purpose." Her voice was a fragile whisper. "My mother made it clear. I know what is required." The robotic, dead tone she used twisted something in his gut. "What exactly did your mother say?" "That I am yours now. That I must—" She trailed off, her breath hitching. "That my purpose is to follow your commands. That it is my duty to please you. Never resist. To be—" Her voice broke into nothing. "To be good." A cold rage, not at her, but at Aldo and her mother, surged through Dominic. They'd reduced this girl to a trading card, teaching her obedience was her only worth. "They told you that you are my property. Is that it?" Her terrified eyes were locked on his. "You purchased me. My father showed me the agreement. You get the shipping lanes, you get me. My family is safe. That is the deal, Serafina. I am not a fool, Mr. Varley." Tears were flowing freely down her cheeks now. "I understand what men in your world do. I've heard the stories. I know your nature, and I know I have no choice. So I will perform my duties. I'll be whatever you need." Then her voice cracked into a raw, broken plea. "Just please don't hurt me more than necessary." The car stopped at Dominic's building, a fortress of dark glass and steel. He usually looked at it with pride. Tonight it felt like a cage. Victor opened her door. Serafina got out on trembling legs, and when Dominic's hand grazed her elbow, she recoiled so violently she nearly fell. They went up in the private elevator, wrapped in a suffocating quiet. Serafina stared at the floor, marking every second like a walk to the gallows. The doors opened into his living area, a stark, empty space of concrete, brick, and glass walls overlooking the Hudson. It was a space designed to intimidate. Through her eyes, Dominic saw only its coldness. She lingered at the entrance, a statue of pure dread. "The bedrooms are that way," Dominic gestured. "Your things are already in the closet." She gave a tiny, silent nod. "Are you hungry? I can order something." Another silent nod. She said nothing. Frustration began to build in Dominic. He handled deadly negotiations and men who wanted him dead. Nothing had prepared him for this broken girl who saw a demon when she looked at him. Maybe she was just seeing the truth. "Serafina." He tried to soften his voice, but it came out sharp. "You have to eat. You barely touched your food." "I am not hungry." Her voice was hollow. "When was the last time you ate?" Silence was her only answer. Serafina. Yesterday morning, she admitted, her voice lifeless. I couldn't. I've felt sick since I learned about the arrangement. Food, just... She hugged herself. It does not matter, I am well. She was anything but. A violent shiver ran through her, her teeth chattering. As Dominic stepped closer, she scrambled back until she hit the wall. Pure animal panic filled her eyes. He froze, holding his hands up, palms out. I am not going to touch you. But you will, she whispered, tears falling again. It will happen. That is the purpose of tonight, isn't it? The contract it specifies. She choked on the word. Consummation. Dominic said the word for her, and he saw her flinch from the sound. So that is what you believe this is. And there it was, the cold, unspoken foundation of their union. The marriage contract had clauses about heirs and duties, things required whether wanted or not. Dominic had barely scanned them. They were just ancient formalities, he thought. He'd assumed Serafina was a player who understood the game, with her own motives. He never expected this kind of pure, soul-deep terror. He never expected to feel like a predator sizing up his prey. Go to your room, he finally said. Take a shower, change. I will have food brought to you. And after? Her voice was a ghost. After, you will eat and you will sleep. That is all. She clearly didn't trust him. My mother said the first night, it is vital that that we are required to. The trembling got worse. She said if I fail, my father will lose everything, that you can void the pact, that our family will be. Your mother is mistaken. Dominic's voice was harder than he meant it to be. Go to the bedroom, Serafina, now. She fled, the door clicking softly behind her. Dominic stood alone in his huge living room, fighting the urge to break something. All of it, the deal, the wedding, this whole mess, had seemed so straightforward on paper. Get the shipping routes, forge an alliance, take a wife, and move up. He never factored in the girl being an actual person. His phone vibrated. It was Marcus. So, how's the married life? The question was a jab. Not so bad. Dominic walked to the window. She is afraid of me. Genuinely afraid. She believes I am going to... He couldn't finish the sentence. Are you? Marcus fired back. For God's sake, Marcus. I ask because you signed a paper that gives you the right, and I know how you work. Everything is a tool, everyone is a pawn. So as a friend, what is your next move? Dominic closed his eyes. I do not know. You should figure it out, and fast, because that girl isn't a footnote in a contract. She is a person. If you treat her like property, you'll shatter her, and maybe yourself, too. Since when did you become my moral compass? Since I watched you become someone I barely know these last 5 years. You once had lines you wouldn't cross. Dom, make damn sure this isn't one of them. Marcus hung up. Dominic ordered food he knew Serafina wouldn't touch. When it arrived, he tapped on her door. No answer. Serafina, I left food out here for you. You need to eat. Still, just silence. He waited, hearing only the empty quiet, then retreated. An hour passed. He checked again, and the tray was untouched, its food now cold. Dominic spent the night in his office, reading reports he had memorized, anything to escape the thought of the terrified girl in his home. As dawn broke, he was no closer to an answer. When he bounced, the penthouse went dead silent. Her door stayed locked. The grub he left was gone, but who knew if she ate it or just trashed it? His morning was a straight-up grind. Lawyers, security ops with Victor, and chewing out some supplier who got bold. Dominic handled it all like a stone-cold pro, but his focus was shot. That night, he found Serafina in the kitchen. She was rocking jeans and a huge sweater, looking crazy young. Her hair was still damp as she made a clumsy attempt at cooking. She was moving all hesitant and weird. "You don't need to do that." His voice cut the silence, and she flinched hard. The knife in her hand clattered at the counter. "I have people for that." "I wanted to," she mumbled, staring at the jacked-up vegetables. "I felt like I should. My mother said it's my duty to—" "Your mother was wrong about a lot." Serafina just twisted her hands. "I don't get what you want from me." As Dominic got closer, she flinched back, using the island like a shield, always scared, always retreating. "I need you to stop seeing a monster." "I'm trying," she whispered, her voice cracking. "For real I am, but I don't know how. I don't know what my job is here." She hid her face. "This is all brand new. I don't know how to be a wife, or what you even want. I'm scared I'll screw up and you'll—" "You'll what?" "I don't know." The truth just exploded out of her. "I don't know what you do when I mess up. Will you kick me out? Will you hurt me? There are no rules, just this panic, this cage. I can't breathe." Her words turned into a full-on panic attack, each gasp making her stumble. He moved on pure instinct, reaching for her, but she recoiled so violently she slammed into the counter. "Don't touch me," she screamed. "Please don't. I can't. I can't." She slid to the floor, curled up against the cabinets, just trying to get air. It was a complete meltdown, her entire system crashing from fear. Dominic was frozen, watching her break, feeling completely useless. Every bone in his body screamed to take control, to stop her pain. But he was the trigger. He couldn't command this kind of terror away. "Serafina," his voice was low and steady. "Look at me. I need you to open your eyes." But she couldn't. They were slammed shut, tears carving down her face as she shook. "I will not touch you. I'm staying right here. You are safe. You hear me? You're safe." "I'm not," she gasped out. "I'll never be safe. I'm yours. My dad traded me and you bought me. I have no moves, no way out. I can't breathe." Dominic slowly lowered himself to the floor, giving her space. "Just breathe in your nose, out your mouth. Do it with me." He showed her, breathing slow and deliberate. After a second, she tried to copy him. It took a long time for her breathing to level out, for the panic to back off just a little. "I'm sorry." Her eyes were glued to the floor. "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have. They told me to be quiet, be good, stay out of trouble, but I can't." The apologies kept pouring out. "But Serafina." He waited in the silence until she finally looked at him. "What exactly did they tell you about me?" She bit her lip. "That you're dangerous. That you've killed people, that the whole city is scared of you, that you always get what you want, no matter the price. That if I fail to—" She stopped. "If you fail to what?" "If I don't make you happy, you could wreck my family. The deal gives you control over them. It's my job to make this work." A sharp, cold anger flared up in Dominic. Aldo had turned his own daughter's fear into a leash, making her think her only value was obeying a monster. "Your family used you," he said, his voice sharp. "They backed you into a corner and called it your duty. They made you think you were saving them. That's not protection, Serafina, that's cowardice. They had no choice. We were losing everything. My father's debts, the legal mess, the threats from—" She cut herself off, realizing she'd said too much. From who? She just shook her head. Serafina, who was threatening your family? It doesn't matter now. You run the shipping routes. You can protect us from anyone who... Again, she went quiet. For Dominic, the picture was coming together, and it was ugly. Her old man wasn't just broke. He had serious enemies gunning for him. And instead of facing them, he hid behind his daughter. He was trying to protect us. He was protecting himself. Don't, she trembled. Please don't say that. He's still my father. He's still... She couldn't finish. They both got it. Aldo Valle served up his kid to save his own skin, dressing it up as honor and love. How old are you? The question came out of nowhere. 22. And this whole scheme, how long has it been going on? I'm not sure. A few months. I only found out 2 weeks ago. She hugged her knees tighter. My mother laid it all out. The debts, the threats, the marriage contract. She said it was the only way. My duty as the oldest. You have siblings? 2 younger sisters still in school. A new fire lit up her eyes, pure defense mode. They can't know. They think I'm getting married because I want to. Because it's... She let out a bitter laugh. Romantic. And what do they know about you? Nothing real. Just that you're successful and powerful. My mother spun this almost respectable story. Serafina wiped her eyes on her sleeve. They have no clue about your real business, about what you really are. And what am I? She looked right at him, and through her eyes, Dominic saw himself. The architect of a violent empire, a taker, a guy everyone feared, a man who just bought a terrified girl for her connections. I don't know, she whispered. That's the scariest part. I don't know what you are, what you want, or what you'll do. I just know there's no way out. The words hung between them, a cold, hard fact. Dominic stood up slowly. Get up! Fear flashed in her eyes, but she did it, standing on shaky legs. Go back to the bedroom, please. Serafina, go to your room. Lock the door. I'll take the guest room. He pulled out his phone. I'm ordering food. Real food, not whatever that was. It'll be outside your door. You will eat all of it. Then you will sleep. That's it. No duties, no contract, no expectations, just sleep. Clear? She nodded slowly, looking like she couldn't believe it. Tomorrow we'll talk about how this is really going to work. The rules, but tonight you just rest. He waited a beat. Can you do that? I think so. Good. Now go. And she went. This time the click of the door wasn't about giving up. It was a relief. Dominic ordered enough food for 3 people, picking stuff he hoped she'd actually eat. He left it at her door and knocked once. He heard her get it 20 minutes later. An hour passed. He checked and the food was gone. A tiny victory. He stayed in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, second-guessing everything. The deal was done. The shipping routes were his. He'd won the prize, or so he thought. What he'd actually gotten was a broken girl, sold off to save a coward. The whole deal made him look more like a villain than anything else he'd ever done. This marriage felt less like a power move and more like a shared prison. And across the hall, Serafina was definitely awake, fearing the morning, thinking his kindness was just a trick before the real pain started. His whole empire was built on reading people, on using their weak spots, on taking what he wanted. But being the source of someone's sheer terror was never the plan. He never wanted to be the monster in some young woman's nightmares. The question was, could he be something else now? Or was he too far gone, A guy whose kindness just looked like another weapon? There were no answers, only more questions popping up in the silence. He was stuck with the nasty realization that he hadn't bought an asset. He'd bought a human being's paralyzing fear, and for the first time, Dominic Varley had total power over someone and had no clue what to do with it. Morning came way too fast. Sleep gave Dominic nothing, just 2 hours of racing thoughts before a grim dawn. By 6 o'clock, he was in the kitchen with coffee he didn't want, listening to the crushing quiet. He wondered if Serafina had gotten any rest at all. Her door creaked open at 7:30. She was wearing something different, dark jeans, a plain sweater, her hair pulled back. You could see the exhaustion on her face, but she'd pulled herself together into a shaky calm. "Good morning." Her voice was quiet and formal. "Morning." Dominic gestured to the coffee. "Want some?" She shook her head, then stopped. "Actually, yes, please." So he pours her a cup of coffee, watching her hand shake as she dumps in cream and sugar. She's staring a hole through his shoulder, refusing to make eye contact. He asks if she ate. She gives him a "yes, thank you," and winces at the heat. She claims it was too much, but then admits she ate most of it. They're separated by the kitchen island, a straight-up no-man's land. The city's waking up outside, but inside, the silence is crushing. Then Dominic drops the bomb. "We need to talk. For real this time." No more of that BS discussion from last night. No more lines her parents fed her. Just the cold, hard truth. Serafina's knuckles go white around her mug. "Okay." He tells her to sit, and she picks the chair that's basically in another zip code. Homegirl is always looking for the exit. Dominic stays on his feet, looking like a caged animal. "I'm asking questions, you're giving me straight answers. Got it? I'll try." Then he goes for the kill shot. "Did you want this marriage?" And there it is. A tiny, defeated whisper. No. She didn't want any of it. Her dad laid on the guilt trip thick, talking about debts and dangers, calling this the only way to save the family. He framed it so that saying no would make her the villain. And her mom... Oh, her mom gave her the rundown on wifely duties and what he'd demand. She made it crystal clear that if Serafina didn't keep him happy, everyone was going down with her. A cold rage starts building in Dominic again. Your parents sold you, then gaslit you for it. They were desperate, she whispers. They were cowards. She tries to defend them, but he's not having it. They used you as a human shield, Serafina. That's not love, she snaps. What would you know about love? And immediately regrets it. He just keeps his voice level. I don't. But I know what being used looks like. And your father used you as collateral for his own screw-ups. Serafina shoots to her feet, the chair screeching. You don't understand. My family was falling apart. My father was being threatened. She was offered the chance to be the hero, the one who could fix everything. What was I supposed to say? No? And Dominic, cold as ice, hits back instantly. Yes, you were supposed to say no. You were supposed to tell your father to handle his own mess. She scoffs. Easy for you to say. You hold all the power. I had a duty. She's all in on her martyr complex. 2 sisters to protect, a family to save. What kind of monster would I be to walk away, or? He asks. A person who values her own life? But she's been brainwashed. My life isn't more important than theirs. The line just hangs there. Dominic is just looking at this girl who's been taught that love means deleting yourself from the equation. He asks who told her that. Nobody had to, she says. It's just a fact. Dominic takes a step closer and she immediately backs away. He stops, hands up. I'm not going to touch you, but listen. And then he drops the real plot twist. Your father didn't just get protection, he brokered a trade, you for profit. He lays it all out. The shipping routes are worth millions, plus the alliance, the territory. Her dad didn't just get out of debt, Serafina. He got rich by selling you. She flinches, refusing to believe it. He sold you for $3 million and a steady income as a Sturzifight, he says. That isn't desperation. That's a business deal. Serafina just collapses back into her chair. He pulls out his phone, shows her the contract file. Read it yourself. Page 14, section 7, payment terms. She stares at the phone like it's a venomous snake before taking it. Her eyes fly across the screen, and you see the exact moment her world shatters. Her face just crumbles. Don't, she says, pushing the phone back. Don't apologize. You just showed me the truth. But fresh tears are streaming down her face. This isn't terror anymore. This is pure grief, the death of the one belief that kept her going. He sold me, she says out loud, like I was an object, like I was nothing. She lets out this broken laugh. My own father put a price on me sounds like the definition of nothing. And for once, Dominic has no comeback. Aldo turned his own daughter into an asset, and Dominic was the buyer. I didn't know, he says, the words feeling weak. When I signed, I thought you were a willing partner in this deal. And now? Now I know you were cornered. I know you're terrified. And I know none of this is your fault. But the contract is still binding. Then he drops another bombshell. The contract can be dissolved. Her head snaps up. For a split second, you see this flash of hope in her eyes. And then it's gone. My sisters, what happens to them? The people threatening my dad won't care about a voided contract. If she leaves, her family's back in the line of fire, so she makes the call. She's staying. You would stay in this marriage you hate just to protect your siblings. They're 8 and 10 years old. She's not backing down. They don't deserve this, so yes, I will stay. I will do whatever this contract demands, just promise me they'll be safe. You can see something break in him. He gets it. She's in an impossible cage. She can't leave without dooming her sisters, can't stay without destroying herself. It's checkmate. And then he says, what if there's a third option? What if you stayed, but we changed the terms? She's confused. Changed them how? Dominic lays out the new deal very carefully. The contract says they're married, but it doesn't say she has to be scared of him. We can turn this into something bearable. What does that mean? It means he won't force her into anything. No wifely duties. She lives there, they keep up appearances, and her family is safe, but behind closed doors, she's free. That word, free, sounds totally foreign to her. I don't believe you, she says. I know, he replies. Her eyes are scanning his face, looking for the trap. Why are you doing this? What's the catch? He lists the business perks, the tactical advantages, then pauses. And maybe the chance to sleep without ghosts? She's not buying it. You don't seem like a man troubled by his choices. I never was, he admits. But seeing you break last night, it wasn't a moment I'm proud of. You felt regret. I felt like a monster. Maybe you are, she says, just stating a fact. Or maybe we're both just stuck in this mess. Maybe. With a low beat thrumming from the world outside, they were busy building her prison. I'm gonna need some guarantees. Serafina's voice was solid now, no more shaking. If I'm staying, if I'm doing this, I need to know my sisters are safe. Not a promise, but a fact. Done. They get a security team, invisible but unbreakable. And my dad's debt, the guy's threatening him. As of yesterday, his creditors work for me now. To get to him, they have to go through me. Dominic leaned in, his voice dropping low. Your sisters are off limits. Your family is under my protection whether your father deserves it or not. What about the $3 million he got paid? Yeah, what about it? Can you get it back? Make him lose it. Dominic's eyebrow shot up. And why would you want me to do that? Because he doesn't get to profit from selling me. He's not allowed to think he made some kind of genius move. Her voice turned to ice. He needs to learn the real price of what he did. And there it was. Dominic saw it right then. The steel spine she was taught to hide but never actually lost. I can arrange that, but it's gonna wreck your family's finances. Good. Let him suffer. Let him find out what being desperate really feels like instead of cashing me in. For the first time, she looked right at him, dead on and not backing down. I'll be the sacrifice for my sisters, but my father will not get rich from it. Consider it handled. Seriously, just like that? Just like that. Dominic whipped out his phone and fired off a message to his legal squad. By the end of today, that $3 million is getting turned into a loan with insane penalties. He'll regret the day he ever saw that cash. A dark, satisfied look flickered across Serafina's face. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm still the guy whose contract is keeping you here. But you're also the one making this cage livable. She held her coffee cup like it was a lifeline. And that's not nothing. The quiet that settled between them now was different. Not a war zone, but a very delicate ceasefire. I've got some questions, Serafina said quietly. About you, this world, what I'm now a part of. Go for it. The whispers about you, are they legit? Depends what they're whispering. That you've killed people, that you run a criminal empire, that you're a dangerous man. Dominic had to choose between a comfortable lie and brutal honesty he promised her. Yeah, all of it's true. She took the confession without even flinching. How many people have I killed? Yes. You sure you want that number? I'm living with you. I'm tied to you. I think I have a right to know the guy I'm stuck with. Fair point. I lost count after the first few. Some were self-defense. Some were for the business. Some. He faded out. Some were just because I was angry or to make a point. Sometimes it was just the easiest way to solve a problem. Do you have regrets? The question totally blindsided him. Some of them. The ones who didn't have it coming. The ones who were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But not all of them. No, not all. Some guys just need to be taken off the board. They still do. Serafina went quiet for a beat. My father called you ruthless. He said you built this whole thing on fear and violence. He made it sound like a good thing. It's not a strength. It's survival that turned into a disease. What do you mean? Dominic got up, walked to the window, and put a huge gap between them. I grew up in a place where weakness got you beaten, where showing emotion was like handing your enemy a knife. The only way to make it was to be tougher, meaner, and more willing to do awful things than anyone else. So that's what I became, and it worked. I made it. I built all this. I turned myself into the one everyone was afraid of, instead of the one getting hurt. But somewhere along the way, surviving turned into conquering. Fear turned into power. And I stopped asking if I should do something and just did it because no one could stop me. Because no one was strong enough to get in my way. He turned back to her. Your dad was right. I'm ruthless. I'm dangerous. And the things I've done would make you sprint out of this room if you had anywhere to run. I'm not running. You probably should be. But I'm not. She stood and walked toward the window, keeping a safe distance. You want to know what I think? What? I think you're saying all this to scare me, to make sure I get what a monster you are, so I'll… What? Cower? Be a good girl? Know my place? She shook her head. But here's the deal. I'm already at peak terrified. It can't get any worse, so maybe you can drop the act and just tell me who you really are. Dominic just stared. This woman, who was literally trembling too much to stand last night, was now calling his bluff with ice in her veins. You're a lot sharper than I gave you credit for. My father treated me like a pretty decoration, dumb, and only good for a trade. But I'm not dumb. I've spent my whole life watching from the sidelines and learning. She wrapped her arms around herself. So don't treat me like I'm some naive kid. I know what you are. I see this world exactly for what it is. I'm just trying to figure out the rules for surviving in it. Fair enough. Dominic went back to his chair. The truth, then. No more drama. I built my empire with violence because it's the only skill I was ever taught. I'm good at it. Better than anyone should be, and I don't feel bad about most of it because the world I operate in doesn't reward you for being merciful. But you're showing me mercy. Am I? Or am I just hesitating to add you to the long list of things I've already destroyed? Does it matter which one it is? I don't know. And that was the dead honest truth. Dominic had no clue why Serafina's terror was getting through his defenses when nothing else ever had. He didn't know why her fear hit different from the fear of his enemies. He had no idea why the idea of forcing her to do anything made him feel like he'd be damning his own soul for good. They stared at each other from across the table. Two people trapped by a deal neither of them wanted, trying to find a way forward. So, what happens now? Serafina finally broke the silence. Now, we figure out how to live in the same space without destroying each other. That's the big plan. That's the start of one. The rest we'll make up as we go. The smallest hint of a smile touched her lips. You don't seem like the kind of guy who just makes things up as he goes. I usually don't have to. Most things can be controlled. This, he gestured between them. This is uncharted territory for both of us. Yeah. The silence that followed was new, not relaxed, not yet. But it was no longer a battleground. Just two people starting to see the person behind the roles they were forced to play. I've got to go out, Dominic said, standing up. Business that can't wait. Victor will be here. If you need anything, he'll get it for you. Victor, your head of security? Yeah, he looks like a bruiser, but he's… Dominic paused. He's a good man. You'll be safe with him. Safe? She said the word like she was tasting it for the first time. Okay. There's food in the kitchen. Go nuts. The TV works. Books in the office. Gym's on the second floor. This is your space now, too. My space. She looked around the massive penthouse, like she was only just now really seeing it. I don't know what to do with space. What are you talking about? My entire life, I've lived in my father's house, by my mother's rules, being exactly the person they told me to be. I've never had a space that was just mine. Never had a single moment that wasn't planned or supervised. Her eyes locked with his. I have no idea how to just exist without someone telling me what to do. That confession hit him in a way he was not prepared for. Then you'll learn. You have time now. All the time in the world. And when you get back, when I get back, we'll have dinner, we'll talk, we'll keep figuring this out. He walked to the door, but then stopped. Serafina, I meant what I said last night. I won't hurt you, not physically, not ever. That's not what this is. Then what is it? To be honest, I'm still trying to work that out. He was gone before she could answer, the elevator doors closing on her uncertain expression. As he went down, Dominic felt the insane pressure of his own promises. He'd made pledges he wasn't sure he could keep, offered a kindness he didn't know if he even had in him. He had tried to be someone he had never been before. Victor was waiting in the lobby, leaning against a wall with his arms crossed. How'd it go? She knows about the money and about her father's part in it. How'd she take it? Better than I had any damn right to expect, and way worse than she ever should have had to. Dominic headed for the exit. She's up there alone. Keep an eye on her. Not too close, but make sure she's okay. You think she's gonna run? I think she might just fade away in other ways. Just be gentle when you check in. Victor nodded like he completely understood. Where are we headed? We're gonna have a word with Aldeval. Finally. A cold grin spread across Victor's face. Should I grab the tools? Not this time. This is just a chat, but he needs to understand there won't be another one. They drove across the city, cutting through neighborhoods that went from rich to industrial and back again. Aldo's office was in Midtown, in a skyscraper that smelled like old money trying way too hard to stay relevant. Dominic had been in this office before, back when the deal was first being brokered. Back then, Aldo was all smooth handshakes and promises that shined. This time was going to be different. The lift took them to the 14th floor. Aldo's secretary, a nervous woman in her 50s, made a weak attempt to stop them, but one hard look from Victor made her fold instantly. Aldo was laughing on a call when they busted in. That laugh choked out the second he saw Dominic's face. Let me call you back. The phone call died. I wasn't expecting you. I thought we settled everything. We did. Now we're discussing the new terms. Dominic dropped into a chair without an invitation. Victor blocked the door, a mountain of a man on guard. I'm not sure I understand. That $3 million you got for selling your own daughter, it's ours now. All the blood drained from Aldo's face, only to rush back in an angry, blotchy red. That's not on the table. That money was part of the contract. You can't just, I can do whatever I want. Your only decision here is whether this goes the easy way or the hard way. The contract got you cash. It never said you'd get to keep it. Dominic leaned back, looking completely unbothered. Just think of it like a loan we're calling in. A loan with some seriously killer interest. This is just robbery. Nope. This is business. Robbery is me threatening your life for the money. I'm just letting you know about a change in our arrangement. Aldo stood up, trying to fake an authority he'd already lost. I'll fight this. I can take this to court. The contract is solid. You could try, but ask yourself, do you really want a war with me over cash you pocketed for selling your kid like cattle? Dominic's voice went razor sharp. Because I promise you, Aldo, you won't win that fight. You won't even walk away from it. The threat hung in the air, thick and impossible to breathe. Aldo dropped back into his chair, looking like a popped balloon. Why are you doing this? The deal was done. Serafina agreed. It was all finished. Serafina didn't agree. She was forced. There's a big difference. She had a choice. She had the illusion of a choice. That's not the same thing. Dominic leaned forward. You used your own kid like a pawn and told her it was for the family. You scared her into it by threatening her sister's future. You let her believe she was saving everyone when you were just saving your own skin. And you got rich off her sacrifice. I did what I had to do. No, you did what was easy, the thing that let you dodge the consequences of your own screw-ups. Dominic stood up. The money is gone. My people will be in touch with yours about a payment plan. You'll be paying it off for the next 10 years, plus an interest rate that will make you hate every penny you ever touched. I don't have that kind of money. You own the shipping lanes now. Then you better figure something out. Get creative. Isn't that what you told Serafina when you sold her? That tough times call for big sacrifices. Dominic started walking to the door. Now you get to find out exactly how that feels. Wait. Aldo's voice was a dry rattle. My other daughters, my younger ones, the protection you promised them is still in place, right? Unlike you, I don't make children pay for their father's mistakes. Dominic paused at the door. But let's be crystal clear. That protection is just for them. If you get out of line, cause any problems, or even think about going near Serafina without my permission, our next chat is going to be very different. She's my daughter. She was your daughter. Now she's my wife. And I, unlike you, plan on treating her like she's more than just a business deal. He left Aldo sitting there, frozen, his face a mix of rage, fear, and maybe just a hint of shame. Victor was quiet until they were back inside the elevator. You feel better? Not at all. Dominic stabbed the button for the ground floor, but it needed to be done. So what's the plan for her? For Serafina? I have no damn idea. You've got a soft spot for her. I don't even know her, but you care about her. Or at least you don't want her hurt, which in your world is pretty much the same thing. Dominic didn't answer because Victor had nailed it. Some part of Serafina had gotten past his walls, making him question things he'd accepted for years, making him want to be someone else entirely. The real issue was whether a man like him could even change. Could a guy who built his entire life on violence and fear ever be someone a broken girl could learn to trust? He had zero answers, just more questions that got heavier every time he saw the hurt in Serafina's eyes. Every time she flinched from his touch. Every time she put on a brave face that he could see right through. When Dominic returned to the penthouse, Serafina was back in the kitchen. This time she'd actually managed to cook something. Pasta, with what looked like jarred sauce. A salad that was put together with more effort than skill. She was standing with her back to him, and for a second, he just watched her move around the room like she was mapping out the borders of her new cage. That smells incredible. She jumped and spun around, holding a wooden spoon up like a weapon. When she saw it was him, she relaxed a little, but the caution never fully left her expression. I made dinner. I wasn't sure when you'd be back, so I just... She gestured at the stove. There's enough for two, if you're hungry. You didn't have to do that. I had to do something with my hands. Victor showed me where everything was. She turned back to the stove, stirring the sauce for no reason. He's surprisingly gentle for a man who looks like he could rip a phone book in half. He can be. Dominic loosened his tie, the stress of the day settling into his bones. What did you two talk about? Books, mostly. He saw me looking at your library and started recommending authors. I never would have guessed he was a reader. Not many people do. They just see the scars and the size of him and think that's the whole story. Serafina set the spoon down and started dishing out the food with careful movements. Is that how people see you too? They just see the monster and assume that's everything. The question caught him off guard. I don't usually care what other people think, but not never. She handed him a plate, still not looking at him. If you didn't care at all, you wouldn't have told me about the money, about my father. You would have just let me believe the lie I already knew. Maybe I just wanted you to know what kind of man your father really is. Or maybe you wanted me to see the kind of man you want to be. She finally looked him in the eyes. So which is it? Dominic took the plate and went to the table. I don't know yet. They ate in silence for a while. The pasta was simple, but it was food. The act of her making it meant more than the taste. Outside, the sunset was painting the sky over the Hudson in shades of orange and red. I talked to my mother today. Serafina's voice was barely a whisper. I used the phone in your office. I hope that was okay. It's your phone, too. You don't need anyone's permission, old habits. She poked at the food on her plate. I called and told her I was settling in, that it was all fine. What did she say? She asked if I was holding up my end of the bargain, if I was keeping you happy. If I had. Serafina's voice cracked. If I'd done the duty she spent years drilling into my head, the one a wife does on her wedding night? Dominic set his fork down. And what did you tell her? I lied. I told her everything went just like she'd planned, that I was being a good wife. She looked up, her eyes shining with tears of pure rage. I couldn't tell her the truth. I couldn't stand to admit that my own husband has treated me with more respect than my mother ever has. That the monster I was raised to fear is the only person who's bothered to ask what I want. Serafina. She sold me too, don't you get it? She said it was for our family, that it was my destiny. But she stood right there with my father and convinced me this was some noble sacrifice. All that time she was grooming me to be, she choked on the word, to be used. That was the whole point of all her lessons. How to take it, how to be quiet and invisible and easy. How to survive being someone's property. I'm sorry, don't be. You're not the one who did this to me. You're just the one who owns me now. She shot up from her chair and started clearing the plates, even though Dominic wasn't finished. My mother asked when I'd be visiting to bring my new husband to meet the family. She wants to show me off, living proof that her big sacrifice paid off. You don't have to go. Yes, I do. My sisters are still in that house. I need to see them, to make sure they're okay. She turned on the faucet, her movements sharp and angry. Besides, don't you want to see your return on investment? To show the family you now own their daughter? Isn't that how this game is played? That's not what this is, isn't it? You married me to get your hands on shipping lanes and new territory. Being polite doesn't change the facts of the deal. She scrubbed at a plate that was already clean. I'm still the asset you bought, the price my father was willing to pay. Dominic stood and walked toward her, but kept his distance. You're furious. Of course I'm furious. I'm livid. I am. She slammed the plate down on the counter hard enough to crack it. I'm so full of rage I can barely breathe. At my father for selling me, at my mother for helping him, and at myself for being too damn scared to say no. At him for this entire disaster, even while he's trying to play hero. At literally everything, she's completely spiraling. So he hits her with this, go feral. Just smash something if you have to. Her gaze drops to the busted dish, then back to him. Like, are you for real? 100%. This is your house now. If breaking stuff makes you feel better, then get to breaking. We can always buy more plates. She thinks he's lost his mind. Maybe he has, but it beats letting that poison just eat you alive. Serafina just stares at him, and you can see a switch flip. In one move, she grabs that plate and absolutely yeets it at the wall. The thing just explodes, a crazy loud crash that echoes everywhere. She's panting, looking at the mess like she can't believe she did it. Then this noise rips out of her, this insane, broken laugh mixed with a sob. Oh my God, she actually chucked a plate, he asks. Feel better? And she's like, actually, yeah. That felt. And she laughs again, a tear rolling down her face. That was amazing. He offers her another one. She's like, no, but maybe. The girl just slumps to the floor, surrounded by the evidence of her own chaos. She's never broken anything on purpose, never let herself get that mad. Always told to just suck it up. Be nice, don't make waves. While Dominic grabs a broom and starts sweeping, he drops this bomb. You can start a hurricane in here. You can scream. You can break every single dish if it helps you chill out. And he means it. He totally means it. She watches him sweeping up her mess, this super calm moment at the middle of absolute chaos. So she asks, why are you being so decent to me? And he's straight up, I'm not a good dude. Literally anyone will tell you that. But with me, you are. Why? After dumping the shards, Dominic leans on the counter. Honestly, no clue. Maybe because watching you suffer is worse than any dirty deal I've ever cut. Or maybe I'm sick of being the bad guy. Or maybe I see you got screwed by fate, and the least I can do is not make it worse. She calls him out. Those are all calculated answers. What do you really want from me? For him to admit he cares? Bro, they've known each other for 2 days. But she pushes back. You feel something, or none of this would matter. And he knows she's right on the money. That truth messes with him deep down. For 20 years, my guy has surgically removed feelings from his life. People were just pawns. The world was just a game. Now this woman, basically a business asset, is waking up emotions he buried ages ago. So he pivots hard. Let's set some ground rules. Things you're cool with, things you're not. Your hard lines. Serafina pulls her knees in tight. Like what? Physical touch? I get you don't want me putting my hands on you. I'll respect it. But what about for show? If we have to look like a couple, can I put a hand on your back? Or take your arm? She actually has to think about it. If you warn me, if I know it's all an act, I can handle it. But no surprises. And that's it. No hugs, no kisses. He agrees. Understood. And our living arrangement, you want your own room? Is that even on the table? The choice is all yours. Yes, she needs her own space, somewhere to lock the door and just be completely alone. He's like, done. There are 3 empty rooms. Pick one, we'll move your stuff. She looks completely floored. It's that easy? It's that easy. Anything else? I have to work or do some volunteering. I can't just sit here all day waiting for you to come home like some... Her voice just dies, like some trophy. What do you want to do? She has no idea. She was never even allowed to think about it. Her parents' whole plan for her was to marry rich and be a housewife. That was her entire future. A bitter laugh slips out. I guess they got the marriage part right. At least the rich part. He asks what she studied before her world fell apart. Education? She dreamed of being a teacher. For little kids, her whole face softens. I love kids, their honesty, their sense of wonder, how they see everything before the world messes them up. His response? Then be a teacher. But I don't have the degree. I had to drop out when my dad's business went belly up. Couldn't afford the tuition. The money's not an issue now. Finish your degree, get your license, or volunteer while you figure it out. Dominic pulls out his phone. My assistant can set up meetings with different schools. Find one you like. She's like, you're not kidding? Why would I kid about that? You want to work, so work. Your life didn't just stop because you married me. Serafina is looking at him like he grew a second head. This is completely insane. My own father sells me to a crime lord, who then turns out to be some champion for women's rights. He's like, I'm a champion of what's useful. You being miserable and bored does nothing for anyone. You doing something with your life is a better look for both of us. Of all the scary dudes I've met, you are the absolute weirdest. You've met a lot of them? She asks. Just you and my dad, I guess. His type of scary wasn't about broken bones. It was more about taking your soul apart piece by piece. Dominic's reply? Both kinds leave scars. Yeah. She gets up, brushing off her clothes. Can I ask you something personal? You can ask. Doesn't mean I'll answer. Do you have any family, anyone you care about? He thinks for a sec about his Aunt Teresa, the only family who showed up to their wedding. One aunt. We talk maybe twice a year. That's it? My parents are dead. Dad died when I was 19. Mom, a few years later. She says she's sorry. He tells her not to be. My father was a monster, always drunk, always using his fists. My mother just let it happen. Them dying wasn't some big tragedy for me. For the first time, Serafina actually moves closer to him. Is that why you get it? Why you're trying to be different? Maybe. I know what helplessness feels like. Having your life run by someone else. Being terrified in the one place you're supposed to be safe? His eyes lock with hers. I swore when I left that house I would never be weak again. I would never let anyone have that kind of control over me. And now you have that same control over me, she points out. I do, he admits, which is why I'm trying not to use it. Trying? But you could if you wanted to. He knows he could. No point in lying. The marriage contract gives me a crazy amount of legal power over you. Your father made sure of that. But would you actually use it? If I made you mad or didn't live up to what you wanted, would you drop the hammer? The word no is right there. He wants to say it, to tell her she's safe. But he promised to be real. And being real means admitting he's got a dark side. I can't say for sure. I hope I wouldn't. But I've done terrible things for way less than being angry or let down. I can't promise I'm a new man just because I said so. She takes that in, nodding slowly, thinking it over. Thanks for being honest. You asked for the truth. Most guys would have just told you a sweet little lie. I'm not most guys. A tiny smile plays on her lips. No, you are definitely not. In the next few days, they fall into this weird rhythm. Dominic leaves early for shady business she knows not to ask about. She spends her mornings checking out their fancy prison of a home. Her afternoons are full of calls with schools, a tip from Victor's wife that was actually clutch. At night, they eat dinner, sometimes in silence, other times with shaky conversations that get a little easier every day. Serafina picked the bedroom at the end of the hall, the one with the windows that catch the sunrise. Her stuff got moved on Dominic's silent command. She starts leaving bits of herself around the place, like books on tables, a jacket on a chair, little signs of life that start to make the huge, cold rooms feel a little less empty. Then on day 4, Marcus shows up unannounced. Dominic's in his office when Victor buzzes him on the intercom. Chen's here. Says it's an emergency. Let him in. Marcus walks in, looking seriously stressed. We need to talk about the Colombo problem. Not right now. Yes, right now. They're kicking off about the shipping lanes, claiming we moved in on Vale's territory. It's not Vale's territory anymore. It's mine. And that's the problem. They had a deal going with Aldo, a nice, steady paycheck. That paycheck is gone now, and they are seriously ticked off. You can feel that old rage starting to bubble up in Dominic. Then let them be ticked off. I'm not making deals. You might not have a choice unless you want a full-blown war. I've handled wars before. Not this kind of war. Not with... Marcus lowers his voice. Not with a wife you have to keep safe. Oof! That line hits different. Dominic gets up and walks over to the window. What are you trying to say? I'm saying they know about Serafina. The whole damn city knows, and some of them are wondering if she's a weakness they can use. If anyone touches her, I know you'll burn this city to the ground, but that doesn't help her after she's already been hurt. Marcus gets closer. Look, I'm not trying to freak you out. I'm trying to make you think like a boss again. The old Dominic would have seen this coming. He would have had a plan ready. The old Dominic wasn't carrying this kind of baggage. You mean he didn't care about innocent people getting caught in the crossfire? Marcus is staring at him, trying to figure him out. What is up with you? You've been different since the wedding, distracted. He fires back. It's handled. Is it? Because it looks like you're making moves based on feelings, not business. And in our world, that's how you end up dead. Just then, Dominic's phone buzzes. It's a text from a number he doesn't know. He opens it, and ice floods his system. It's a picture of Serafina leaving their building just hours ago. The shot came from a car across the street. No words, just the picture. We got a problem. He flashed the screen at Marcus. When did this hit? Seconds ago. Dominic was already a ghost, gliding to the living room where Serafina was lost in a book. She looked up, his face a thundercloud that froze her solid. What is it? We need to talk about your security. My security? You've got a tail. He showed her the photo. This landed 5 minutes ago. All the color drained from her face. Why would anyone? Because they know what you're worth. Because you're the lever they can use to break me. Dominic's voice was pure ice, hiding a furnace of rage. Which means your entire lifestyle is about to get an overhaul. So I'm a prisoner now? So you need protection. Around the clock, Victor's putting a team together. No. Serafina was on her feet, the book thudding to the carpet. No, I was just starting to breathe, to feel something like freedom. I am not giving that up. This isn't up for debate. Everything is. You said I'd have choices. That was before someone put a target on your back with a camera. You can't be sure it's a threat. It is a threat, Dominic's voice turned to steel. I know this playbook. First they show you they can touch you. The next time it won't be a photo. From the doorway, Marcus cleared his throat. He's right, Serafina. This is the real deal. Of course you're taking his side. I'm on the side of you staying alive. Marcus glanced at Dominic. But she's got a point. Lock her up, and you're just her father with a new face. Dominic flinched at the truth in that. He turned back to Serafina. What's your solution? I want to be safe, but I have to be a person, not some treasure locked in a vault. So what's the middle ground? She hesitated. Security when I go out, fine, but not breathing down my neck in here. I need some piece of a normal life. I am not going to be a captive in this house. Done. But you follow Victor's rules to the letter. You tell us where you're going. You don't take any dumb risks. Because my risks become your liability. Because I don't want to see you get hurt. The word slipped out, way more raw than Dominic planned. Is that so hard to believe? Serafina just stared. No, that's the part that terrifies me, that you actually mean it. Why does that scare you? Because it's easier when you're the monster, when this is just business. I can hate you then, no strings attached. She wrapped her arms around herself. But you keep showing these parts of a man, and it gets everything twisted. Marcus quietly backed out, muttering something about the perimeter. The silence that followed felt heavy enough to crush them. I don't know how to do this. Serafina's voice was barely a whisper. I don't know how to be your wife while being petrified of what you are. How to accept protection that only exists because I'm your weak spot. She paused. How to even start trusting you when my whole life has been a lesson not to. You shouldn't trust me, not completely. I'm not a good man, Serafina. I'm trying to be something better for you, but better might not be in my DNAs. That's not exactly encouraging, it's the truth. Yeah, she sank back, looking spent. It is. Dominic's phone rang, shattering the moment. Victor, we got the vehicle from the photo. Traffic cam snagged the plate. It's registered to one of Colombo's lieutenants. Bring him in! Quietly, or do you want to make some noise? Dominic looked at Serafina, sitting there looking so breakable and scared, but still fighting. Loud. I want the word to get out about what happens when they touch what's mine. He ended the call. Serafina's eyes were locked on him. What are you going to do? Handle it. That means hurting someone, maybe ending them. All of this over a picture. Because of what that picture means. They're testing the fence, and I need to show them the line is live wired. She got up, a ghostly shape against the dark window. This is the world you live in, all violence and threats. Yes. And now I'm part of it, like it or not. Yes. Then I need you to promise me something. What? That when you do what you're about to do, it's 100% necessary. Not just rage, not a power trip. That there's a solid reason. Dominic moved closer, but kept his distance. They sent your photo. That's their message. It says they can get to you, that they'll use you. If I don't hit back with overwhelming force, every rival I have will think you're fair game. That's the reason. Is it necessary enough for you? She gave a slow, painful nod. I hate that it makes perfect sense. Welcome to my life. Our life now, she corrected him. For better or for worse, right? Isn't that the deal we made? I don't recall the vows. I was too busy watching you tremble. I remember every last word. I was terrified saying them would make this whole nightmare real, that it would be my trap. She turned to face him head on. Looks like I was right. If you want to walk away, I can't. My sisters, and now this. If I leave, they'll just follow me. I'll still be their leverage wife or not. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm caged by my own security detail. That's almost poetic. Serafina, this isn't on you. I'm not blaming you. You're just trying to keep me safe. I get it. She pressed her palm against the cool window pane. I just wish feeling safe didn't feel so much like being in a cage. Dominic's phone buzzed. Victor again. We've got him, warehouse in Red Hook. He's not cooperating. I'll be there in 20 minutes. You're going now, she said. A statement, not a question. Yes. To hurt him. To get answers by any means necessary. She turned away from the window. Then go do your thing. I'll be right here, locked in my safe little cage. That's not fair. Neither is any of this. That's kind of the point. She swept past him towards her room. Just try not to get a kick out of it. The violence. I know you're capable of being a monster, but I want to believe some part of you hates causing pain. The door clicked shut before he could answer, leaving Dominic feeling like he'd just lost a battle he didn't even know he was fighting. The Red Hook warehouse was a temple of decay, forgotten, quiet, a perfect place for screams to go unheard. The guy Victor grabbed was tied to a chair, mouth bloody, but otherwise saved for the main event. Name's Danny Costa, Victor said, handing Dominic a file. Works for Marco Colombo. A street grunt. Total nobody. So who sent him for the picture? He's saying it was routine recon. That Marco just wanted to track your movements. Dominic closed in on the chair. Danny's defiant look was paper thin. I don't know anything. You know who sent you. You know why, and you know exactly what happens if you stay quiet. Marco will kill me if I talk. I'll kill you if you don't. The only real choice you have is which one you'd prefer. Danny swallowed hard. I want a lawyer. Dominic almost laughed out loud. This isn't an arrest, Danny. There are no lawyers here. There's just you, me, and the breaking point of your body. I have rights. The first punch snapped Danny's head sideways, a spray of blood following. Dominic felt that cold rush, the predator waking up. This was his territory. Let's try that again. Who sent you? Marco Colombo. Danny was sobbing now. He said to watch the girl, learn her routine, report back. Report what? When she's vulnerable, where she goes, who's watching her. Danny spat out some blood. He's cooking something up. I don't know the details. But you've gotta guess. He's pissed about the shipping lanes, about losing Vale's turf. He plans to get to you by getting to her. Danny's silence was his confession. Dominic hit him again, feeling the disgusting crunch of bone. The violence was a disturbing comfort. This was who he was. This was his job. When? I don't know. Soon. He's rounding up muscle, making moves. That's all I know, I swear to God. Victor stepped forward. He's either telling the truth, or he's the best actor I've ever seen. Dominic backed away, his hands slick. Get rid of him. Wait. Danny's voice was a high-pitched whine. You said if I talked. I said I'd kill you if you didn't. I made no promises about what would happen if you did. Dominic turned to Victor. Make it quick. He cooperated. Please. Dominic was gone before the man could finish begging. Outside, the night air hit him like a slap. His hands were trembling, not from fear, but from the brutal mix of adrenaline and violence that always left him feeling like a god and a hollow shell at the same time. His phone buzzed. A text from Serafina. Did you get what you needed? He stared at the screen, stunned. Yes. Are you okay? The question was so out of place he almost laughed. When was the last time anyone had asked him that? I'm fine. Home in an hour. I'll leave some dinner out for you. Such a normal reply to such a brutal night. Such a weird, broken life they were building. When he walked into the penthouse, Serafina was on the sofa, curled up with a book. Her eyes lifted when he came in. taking in his bruised knuckles and the dead look in his eyes. "Go wash up. I'll heat up dinner." He did as he was told, scrubbing off the red, trying to wash away what he'd done. When he came back, pasta and bread were on the table. A glass of wine was poured. They ate their meal in a heavy silence. Serafina didn't ask about the blood or what went down at the warehouse. She never asked if the man was alive or dead. She just sat across from him, sharing food like it was any other Tuesday. I called a volunteer coordinator today. Her voice was intentionally light. At an elementary school over in Brooklyn, they need people to help kids with reading. Word on the street is that's a go. I'm starting the week after next, just Tuesdays and Thursdays. Victor's already sorting the security detail, which, obviously. She lifted her glass. The lady in charge was cool, totally normal, with zero idea who she just put on the payroll. Does that mess with you? Nah, it's actually a relief just being Serafina for a minute, not the chick who got sold or the mob boss's wife. Just me. You're allowed to be just you here too. She met his eyes, and the look she gave him was straight up tragic. Am I, though? For real? How can I be when I'm always clocked in on what you are and the stuff you're capable of? I have no idea. Same here. She dropped her fork on the plate. I'm trying, Dominic. I am seriously trying to figure out how to exist in this life and not despise you for it. And not despise myself for that. But dude, it's so hard when you walk in here with blood on your hands and I'm supposed to act like it's just another Tuesday. You want me to lie? Pretend to be a guy I'm not? No, I want... She stopped, shaking her head. I don't know what I want. That's the whole freaking problem. I'm completely lost in all this. In you, in this lifestyle, in whoever I'm supposed to be now. Dominic shoved his plate back. That guy from tonight is handled. Victor took care of the cleanup. He was plotting with Columbo to hurt you, maybe grab you, or worse. So I had him deleted, and I don't regret it at all. Serafina took this news without even flinching. Should you have regrets? A regular dude probably would. Are you a regular dude? No. Then you can't be looking for a regular response. She stood up and started clearing the table. I'm not saying you were right. I'm in no position to call those shots. But I can see your logic. That's all you're getting from me. That's more than I expected. Don't get it twisted. Understanding is not acceptance. She turned to face him. I get why you hurt people, why you kill, why violence is your go-to move. But that doesn't mean I approve. It doesn't mean I'll ever be cool with it. I'm not asking you to be cool with it. Then what are you asking for? Dominic gave her nothing but silence. He had no clue what he wanted, other than for her to stop being scared. He wanted a truce, something to make their life together not a total nightmare. He just knew for sure that having her around mattered in a way he couldn't even explain. I'm asking for time, he finally said. Time for us to figure out what this even is. We're just two people stuck in a contract neither of us wanted. That's all we are. And what could we be if we actually tried? She held his stare for a hot minute. I don't know. Maybe something that hurts less. Maybe something that doesn't feel like I'm constantly suffocating. She paused. Maybe we should just play it by ear and stop trying to put a label on it. One day at a time. Yeah. She walked toward her room. Good night, Dominic. Good night. She paused at the doorway. For what it's worth, I see you're trying. Even when I can't come up with the right thing to say, your effort isn't going unnoticed. And just like that, she was gone. The soft click of her door didn't sound like a loss this time. It was just the end of the day and the quiet promise of the next one. Dominic stayed behind, watching the city lights, his head filled with images of smashed hands, dead men, and a woman who was fighting to find some humanity in a world built to destroy it. He had built his entire kingdom on being feared, on showing zero weakness, on annihilating anyone who got in his way. And yet, his biggest threat was a 22-year-old woman who looked at him with a mix of hope and sheer terror, basically asking him to be a better man than he'd ever been. The real question was, could better even happen? Could a guy whose only language was violence learn to speak with kindness? Could a man who'd spent 20 years building walls tear them down for a practical stranger? He had zero answers. Only hands that would never be clean, a void that violence couldn't fill anymore, and the growing panic that Serafina Vale was changing him in ways he couldn't understand, which scared him more than anything ever had. 2 weeks went by in this crazy, delicate dance around each other. Serafina started her volunteer gig in Brooklyn, coming home with stories about kids who loved books they couldn't even read yet, and second graders who saw the world with insane bravery. Dominic would just listen during their dinners, getting this insane urge to protect the light in her voice, a peek at the person she could have been. Victor's security team moved like ghosts, always there but never seen. Serafina learned to tune them out, like New Yorkers ignoring sirens. She was finding a groove in her fancy cage that was almost normal. Almost. The bomb dropped on a Tuesday morning. Dominic was in a meeting with his lawyers about territory when Marcus blew in without knocking. "We've got a problem." Dominic was on his feet instantly. "Serafina?" "No, her sister, the little one. Someone made a play for her outside of school." The entire world went ice cold. "Made a play?" "Our guys shut it down, but it was close. Way too close." Marcus's face was pure stone. "This is escalating." Dominic was already grabbing his phone, dialing. "Get Serafina home right now and bring me Marco Colombo. Boss, if we snatch Marco, it's an all-out war. Then it's war. Nobody lays a hand on those children. Nobody." He ended the call. Marcus watched him, looking seriously worried. "You need to think this through. A war. For what? For a 10-year-old girl whose only crime was having a coward. For a father and a sister I married." Dominic grabbed his coat. "This is exactly what I warned them would happen. They test the limits. I respond with total annihilation. That's how the game is played. That was the old game. You've got Serafina to think about now. If you go to war, she's target number 1. She's already target number 1. They made that crystal clear with the photo, and now with this move on her sister." Dominic headed for the door. The only way to guarantee her safety is to make them so petrified of me they wouldn't even dare to breathe in her direction. Or you could try talking. Find some middle ground with Columbo. "There's no middle ground with men who mess with kids," Victor called back. "Serafina's secure, on her way home. She's asking questions. Tell her I'll explain everything when I'm there, boss. She is not going to take this well. She's already freaking out about her sister. Then keep her contained until I get there." Dominic slid into his car, the driver already peeling out. "And find Marco. I don't care what it takes." The drive to the penthouse felt like it took forever. Dominic's brain was running through every possible outcome, every way this could blow up in his face. He knew this marriage would cause drama, that her family was now his problem. But knowing it in theory and facing the raw fact that a kid was almost kidnapped were two completely different things. When he walked into the apartment, Serafina was pacing like a wild animal in a cage. She spun on him the second he stepped inside. Is Emma safe? They told me she's safe, but I need to hear her voice. She's fine. She's at your parents' house, with even more guards. She has no clue what even happened. What do you mean she has no clue? Someone tried to kidnap her. Our guy stopped them before she even noticed. To her, it just looks like some new bodyguards are walking her home now, that's all. Serafina froze. Guards? 10-year-olds don't have guards. This one does now, and your other sister too. This can't be real. She pressed her hands to her head. This is all my fault. I brought this on them. No. Your father brought this on when he made deals he couldn't back up. When he used you as a bargaining chip for his screw-ups and turned your sisters into leverage. Dominic moved a little closer but kept his distance. This is not your fault, but it's happening because of me. Because they want to get to you, and they're using my family as the weapon. Yes, and I'm going to make sure it's the last time they ever try. She glared at him, fear and fury battling in her eyes. How? By killing more guys? By starting a war that puts even more innocent people in danger? By making it damn clear that some lines should never be crossed? And you're the one who gets to draw the lines. In this world, yes, I am. Serafina went to the window, wrapping her arms around herself. I want to see them. Not yet. Not until I'm 100% sure it's safe. And when is that going to be? When I have dealt with Marco Colombo. Dealt with? She spun back around. You mean killed. Just say the word. You're going to kill him, if that's what it takes. And what if his death just makes things worse? What if his crew comes back for revenge? What if other kids get put in the line of fire? They won't be. Not when I'm done. You can't possibly know that. I know how power works. I know that raw strength is the only language guys like Marco understand. Backing down now is weakness. Show them you can be broken through your family. And you're declaring open season. Every single enemy I have will see a way to get to me through the people you care about. Serafina was silent for a long, heavy second. I despise that you're right. I know. I despise that this brutal crap is the only option. That we can't just handle this like normal people. Marco threw normal out the window when he sent a hitman after a child. So did you. The second you took your first life, the moment you chose power over doing the right thing. She put up a hand when he started to argue. I'm not defending Marco. I'm saying you both operate in a world where kids are just collateral damage, where fear is a tool, and violence is the only real conversation. And I'm stuck in the crossfire. Then what do you want from me? To let this go. So she should just wait till they finally grab Emma next time? No way. She's completely losing it. I have no idea what I want. I need my sisters to be safe. I need to stop living in fear every single second. In a perfect world, 10-year-olds wouldn't need armed guards, but this ain't that world, is it? Nope. So do what you gotta do. Protect them, protect me. Unleash whatever violence is necessary. Her voice went cold. Just don't ask me to act like it doesn't make me sick. Dominic's cell blows up. Victor's on the line. We got Marco, and he's demanding to talk. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He's insisting on a one-on-one, neutral ground. Just you and him. Dude, that's a trap. Probably, but he says he has intel. Claims there's some critical info you need before kicking off a war. Dominic thinks for a sec, set it up. But I want eyes and ears on everything. If he even flinches the wrong way, we end him right there. He hangs up. Serafina's just staring at him. You're seriously going to meet this guy? Yup. Is that smart? Not really, but I have to hear him out. You mean you need to stare him down while you figure out whether to put him in the ground? She already rids him like a buck. Yeah. Well, in that case, I'm going with you. Absolutely not. And why not? Because it's a death trap. Every single thing in this life is a death trap. If I'm there, I can see it for myself instead of sitting here imagining way worse. Serafina, this isn't me asking. I'm telling you, I'm coming. You want me to get your world? Then let me actually see it. The whole thing, not just the sanitized parts you think I can stomach. Dominic wanted to argue, to lock her in the penthouse where she'd be out of harm's way. But the look in her eyes told him she'd just find another way to tail him. And maybe she had a point. Maybe she needed to see the ugly side, to understand why he did what he did. Fine, but you're staying in this car with Victor. You do not get out. You do not get involved. You are a spectator. Deal? The meet was set for a warehouse in Queens, all industrial and completely abandoned. Dominic rolls up with Victor and 2 more guards, Serafina tucked in the back of the SUV. Marco's already there, leaning on a black sedan with 3 of his goons. Stay here, Dominic orders Serafina. No matter what happens, I will. He gets out of the truck. Marco watches him walk up, his face a total blank. Really? Glad you could make it. You've got 5 minutes to tell me why I shouldn't just end you right here, because I'm not the one who went after your wife's sister. That stopped Dominic cold in his tracks. You're lying. Am I? Think about it. What do I possibly gain from picking a fight with you? You jacked my shipping lanes. Yeah, I'm mad about it, but I'm not dumb enough to start a war over a route that was barely making me any money. Then who was behind the picture? Who sicked Danny on Serafina? Danny worked for me, sure, but he was also double dipping with someone else. Someone who needed you to think I was the bad guy. Someone who wanted us to wipe each other out so they could swoop in and take over both our operations. Dominic could feel his whole world shifting. Who? Your new father-in-law? Those words hit him like a freaking truck. Aldo, he's been playing both sides this whole time. He made a deal with me months back. I'd cause some trouble for you, make you look weak, and he'd give me access to the lanes after you took over. He said his own daughter would help from the inside. Serafina doesn't know anything about this. Yeah, I'm guessing she doesn't. But Aldo's plan was that once you were busy with outside threats, and your marriage fell apart because you couldn't keep her family safe, the whole deal would be void. He could tear up the contract, get his power back, and I'd be perfectly set up to steal your turf while you were distracted. Dominic's hands balled into fists. You got proof? Marco pulls out his phone, shows him a whole thread of texts, coordinates, and meeting times, all perfectly planned, all from Aldo's secure line. He sent Danny to snap that photo, told him to make it look like my crew did it. Then he staged the kidnapping attempt on the little girl to force your hand into a war with me. Marco's smile was pure ice. The guy was willing to let his own kid get caught in the line of fire just to get out from under your thumb. That's some cold-blooded stuff, even for guys like us. A white-hot rage started building in Dominic. So why are you telling me all this? Because I don't like being used as a pawn. And because Aldo Val is the kind of snake that gives our whole business a bad name. He needs to learn a lesson about consequences. Marco pockets his phone. Look, I'm not saying we're friends. We're not. But we don't have to be enemies, not over this. What do you want? I want Aldo dealt with permanently, and I want a small cut of the shipping routes. Just enough to call it even. Dominic thought it over. Every gut feeling was screaming that this was a setup, that Marco was playing him for a fool, but the evidence was undeniable. The logic was twisted, but it made a sick kind of sense. Aldo was exactly the type of snake to throw his own kids to the wolves to save his own skin. I'll think about it. Don't take too long. Aldo's already got other moves planned. Next time, it might not just be an attempt. Next time, one of those kids might actually disappear for good. Dominic turned on his heel and walked back to the SUV. Serafina was watching him from the tinted window, her face pale as a ghost. He slid in next to her. Drive. Victor peels out. They were 3 blocks away before Serafina finally spoke. What did he say? Dominic pulled out his own phone, scrolled to his contacts, and found Aldo's name. Your father's been playing us both, setting up attacks on you and your sisters to start a war between me and Marco, trying to blow up our marriage so he can get his territory back. No, he wouldn't. He couldn't do that. Dominic showed her the screenshots Marco had sent, watching her face as she read her own father's words, each text more insane than the last. Oh my God! Her voice just cracked. He was okay with Emma being taken, with something happening to her just to get rid of me, to break the deal. But Emma, Sophie, they're his daughters. Serafina's hands were shaking like a leaf. What kind of monster gambles with his own children's lives? The kind who sees them as property, as pawns to be moved around a board. Dominic took his phone back. I'm sorry, don't apologize for showing me who he really is. I should have seen it. I should have known when he sold me off that his other daughters meant nothing to him either, that none of us were ever real people to him. What do you want me to do? She looked right at him, and he saw something new in her eyes. Not fear, not weakness, but something harder, something colder. I want you to protect my sisters. For real this time. Not from some random threat. From him. From our father. That would mean taking him out of the picture for good. I know what it means. Her voice was rock solid. He's just going to keep using us. He's going to keep putting them in danger. As long as he's alive and feels trapped, Emma and Sophie will never be safe. Serafina, are you asking me to? I'm asking you to do what you're good at. Neutralize a threat. She locked eyes with him. I'm asking you to kill my father. The words just hung there in the air, heavy and final. Dominic looked for any hint of hesitation. He was searching for the girl who couldn't stand his touch 2 weeks ago, but she was gone. Now he was looking at someone who'd been pushed way too far, who learned the hard way that family is no safe harbor when it's full of poison. Are you sure? He tried to have Emma kidnapped. He's been setting up hits on me. He sold me off and then tried to destroy the one good thing that came out of it. You trying to be a decent guy? Her jaw was tight. I'm sure. Once this is done, you can't take it back. You'll have to live with knowing your husband killed your father. I already have to live with knowing my father tried to get his own kids hurt. This is just balancing the scales. Dominic took out his phone and fired off a text to Victor. It'll look like an accident. Heart attack. Nothing will connect back to you or your sisters. I don't care how it looks. I just want them safe. The car pulled up to the penthouse. They rode the elevator up in total silence, the weight of what they just agreed to crushing them both. The second they were inside, Serafina walked to the window and just stared out at the city. I'm a terrible person. Her voice was barely a whisper. I just put a hit out on my own dad, and I don't feel a single thing. You're not terrible. You're protecting the people you care about by becoming just like you, by deciding violence is the solution. You are not like me, am I not? I just made the exact same call you make every single day, weighing lives, deciding who gets to live and who doesn't, using force to solve a problem. She turned to look at him. The only difference here is that you've done this before. The difference is I chose this life. You got dragged into it. Does that really matter? The end result is the same. My father's going to die because I gave the order. It's because I put his life on the scales against my sister's safety, and he came up short. Dominic slid closer to her, leaving a deliberate gap. If you're looking for an apology, you're wasting your time. That's the messed up truth about me. I'm not changing my mind. I want him gone. My sister needs to be safe. She choked on her words. I need this nightmare to be over. And if that makes me a monster, then a monster I've become. You're not a monster. You're a survivor. Is that the lie you tell yourself after you take a life? When you cause so much pain and ruin worlds? Are you just surviving sometimes? The rest of the time, I'm exactly what I've always been, a monster. Yes. She finally faced him, and for the first time in 2 weeks, she crossed the divide between them. She was so close he could feel the heat radiating from her, see the gold specks in her brown eyes. I don't believe you're a monster. You should. I know. But I don't. You've had every opportunity to hurt me, and you never did. You protected my sisters, even when it threw your own life into total chaos. You're fighting to be a better man, going against every killer instinct you've got. Her hand lifted slowly, giving him a chance to back away before resting on his cheek. I think maybe you're just a man who was never given another option. Dominic didn't move a muscle, her touch a brand against his skin. It was the first time she'd touched him by choice, not out of fear or some obligation. The first time she chose to be close instead of staying a safe distance away. Serafina, I'm still scared of you. Some part of me always will be. But I'm starting to get it. Starting to see how the monstrous side and the human side are tangled up. That you can be both a total savage and surprisingly gentle, a threat and a guardian. That maybe nobody is just one thing. What made you change your mind? I figured out my father was a bigger evil than you. That the man who raised me, my supposed protector, would have traded his own kids for money and power. While you, the boogeyman of my childhood, showed me more kindness in 2 weeks than he did in 22 years. Her hand dropped from his face. It completely flipped my definition of a monster. Dominic's phone buzzed, a quiet signal of doom. It was Victor, with the update. It's done. Vale's car went off the road on his way home. Hit a concrete wall. He was gone instantly. Clean. Just like you wanted. Dominic read the message, the finality of it settling in his bones like cement. He had taken lives before, ordered hits, done the job himself, and never batted an eye. But this was different. This was Serafina's father, no matter how much of a scumbag he was. A line had been crossed, and there was no going back. He held the phone out to her, watched her eyes scan the text, watched her process the fact that her father was gone for good. And her decision had been the weapon that ended him. There were no tears. For a heavy moment, there was just silence. Then a single, decisive nod. Good. How are we telling my sisters? Your mother will handle it. She'll call you tomorrow. The public will think it was a tragic accident. Nothing else? And the funeral? You'll go. You'll play the part of the heartbroken daughter. We have to maintain appearances. Appearances? A bitter laugh escaped her lips. My entire life has been one big appearance. Look pretty, act grateful, pretend everything's fine while my world burned down. I'm through with appearances. What do you want instead? The truth, no matter how ugly it is, no matter how much it hurts. She collapsed onto the sofa. My father was a disgusting man who saw his children as bargaining chips. He died because he messed with people he couldn't beat and thought he was smart enough to get away with it. That's the real story, and I'm not going to fake cry for him. Dominic sat down across from her. They were in completely new territory now. Your sisters will be sad. They're young. They never saw who he really was. Let them have their grief. Let them remember the dad they thought they had. Serafina locked eyes with him. But between us, let's be real. He was a monster too. Just a different type than you. And what type am I? The kind who doesn't lie to himself about what he is. You don't try to pretty up your dirty work by calling it noble. You're straight up with your cruelty. He called his greed family duty. She pulled her knees to her chest. I think I like your type better. Silence filled the space as the setting sun painted the room in shades of orange and black. Outside, the city moved on, clueless about one man's death, a young woman's hardening heart, and a twisted marriage born from a business deal that was slowly turning into something like an alliance. I should feel worse about this, Serafina whispered finally. I should be a mess, but I just feel free. Is that messed up? I don't know. I'm the last person you should ask about right and wrong. Maybe they don't even exist. Maybe there's only survival, and the things we do to see another sunrise. That's a pretty dark way to look at the world. I'm the wife of a crime boss who just had my own father whacked on my orders. Dark seems about right. A tiny smile appeared on Dominic's face. You've got a twisted sense of humor. Looks like I need one to make it in your world. Our world, she corrected. I keep saying your world, but it's mine now too, for better or worse. There are those wedding vows again. Yep, those vows. She got up and went to the window again. Do you think we can ever make this work? How to be a husband and wife without all the chaos? Honestly, no. I think the chaos is the whole point. We're from two completely different universes. But maybe we can learn to ride the storm together. That doesn't sound very romantic. Our story didn't start with romance. Why start pretending now? She turned back to face him, a new gentleness in her gaze. You know the weirdest part of all this? I'm actually starting to feel safe with you. Not in spite of the violence, but because of it. I know you'd burn the world down to protect me, even do monstrous things, especially monstrous things. That's not safety, Serafina. That's just being on the good side of a very dangerous man. Maybe that's all safety ever is. Being valuable enough to be protected. Being cared for enough that someone is willing to be a monster for you. She came back to the couch, sitting closer this time. Not touching, but the distance between them had definitely shrunk. Thank you for protecting my sisters, for dealing with my father, for trying to make this whole situation bearable. You're thanking me for killing your father. I'm thanking you for keeping your promise. There's a difference. Dominic just watched her. This girl who was learning to navigate the shadows with a toughness she once might have used to teach kids, finding her footing in a world designed to break her. She met his gaze, saw the monster and the man, and didn't flinch from either one. You're tougher than I ever gave you credit for. I'm just figuring that out myself. When you stop being afraid of everything, you realize you can handle more than you ever dreamed. Even horrible things, even just surviving, no matter what it takes." She leaned back. "My father always said I was weak, too delicate, too emotional, too naive. I think he was wrong. He was dead wrong. Or maybe this strength is only coming out because it has to, because this life requires it. Because you showed me that to survive, you have to make the hard choice." She sized him up. "Is that what happened to you? Were you someone different before all the violence changed you?" "I started out as someone scared and weak. Violence made me strong, and once I had that power, I swore I'd never be weak again, and now I'm still strong, still dangerous. But for the first time ever, I'm starting to wonder if that's all I want to be. What else would you be?" Dominic had no clue. He'd never considered an alternative, never thought of a life beyond building his empire, using fear as a weapon in the constant game of power. But sitting here with Serafina, watching her morph from a victim into something tougher, more unbreakable, he felt the first tiny crack of a new idea, that he could be someone who protects without burning everything down, who used his power for something more than just having it. Someone who might eventually be worthy of the fragile trust he saw growing in her eyes. "I don't know yet," he said at last, "but I'm willing to figure it out." She reached for him slowly, just like before, and her hand wrapped around his. The gesture was so simple, but it felt massive. The first time she'd initiated contact that wasn't driven by fear. Then let's figure it out together. Two messed up people trying to be a little less so. That's gotta count for something. Dominic looked down at their joined hands, at the sharp contrast of her smooth skin against his scarred knuckles, her tentative trust against his violent history. None of this should have worked. It was an impossible situation, and yet somehow it was starting to make sense. The funeral was exactly the show Aldo would have wanted. Over the top, dramatic, and packed with people who hated his guts, but came anyway. Serafina stood between her mother and Dominic, dressed in black, with a perfect mask of grief playing her part as well as she ever had to survive in her father's house. Emma and Sophie cried into their mother's shoulders, their sadness real and raw, and seeing their tears twisted something painful deep inside Serafina's gut. She wasn't feeling guilty about what she did, not one bit. The real pain was for the dad she thought she had, a ghost who was never really there. "You good?" Dominic's voice was low, just for her. "I'm fine. Let's just get this over with." After the funeral, Marcus laid on some fake condolences, calling her dad a complicated man. Serafina shot back, "That's one word for it," seeing zero reason to play nice with a guy who knew exactly what kind of snake Aldo was. He noted, "You're handling this well." She replied, "I've had a lifetime of practice faking it while my world burned. This is just another Tuesday." Marcus looked at her with new respect, saying, "You're tougher than you look." Her eyes flicked to Dominic. "I'm being taught by the best." After the funeral, everyone gathered at her mom's place. Catherine was putting on an Oscar-worthy show as the grieving widow, and everyone played along. Serafina watched her, wondering if her mom was in on Aldo's whole scheme. Then her mother cornered her in the kitchen. "Serafina, we need to talk about your father's estate, the business." "What about them?" "It's all gone." "Well, the lawyers say your husband owns almost everything. The marriage contract gave Dominic total control." Catherine's perfect composure finally cracked. We have nothing left. The house has a massive loan. The bank accounts are empty. He left us drowning. Serafina felt zero sympathy. He got what he deserved. You could talk to Dominic, ask him to help. Help you? After my father tried to set me up and start a war? Catherine's face went white. What are you talking about? A nasty laugh escaped Serafina. Dad was scheming with Marco Colombo, setting up attacks on me and Emma to wreck my marriage and get his power back. He was willing to sacrifice his own kids to get out from under Dominic's thumb. No, he wouldn't do that. He did, and Dominic has the receipts. Serafina stepped closer, her voice pure ice. So, no, I'm not asking my husband for a handout for the family that sold me off, then tried to ruin the one good thing that came out of it. You're on your own, Mother, just like you left me. I was preparing you for your life. You were training me to be a doormat, property that wouldn't fight back. Serafina's tone was chilling. Oh, I learned my lessons all right, just not the ones you wanted me to. I learned that family is a joke, duty is a trap, and the only person who actually protects me is the man you told me to fear. Catherine reached for her, but Serafina flinched away. Don't! You picked Dad's side. You taught me to take it when you should have taught me to fight. Now you can live with it. She turned and walked straight back to Dominic, who saw her coming. We're leaving. He didn't ask why, just got them out of there. In the car, Serafina finally breathed. That bad? My mother wants cash. She wants me to beg you for a bailout because Dad left them broke. And what did you say? That she can figure it out herself. I'm done cleaning up their messes. Dominic was quiet for a second. If you want to help your sisters. My sisters are minors. They're covered under our contract's protection clause. They'll be fine. But my mother, she made her choice. She can deal with it. You've become hard. I've become a realist. There's a difference. She stared out the window. Besides, I had a good teacher. I'm not sure if that's a compliment. It wasn't an insult, it's a fact. She turned to him. Can we just go somewhere, not the penthouse, anywhere else? Anywhere that isn't contaminated by all this. Where? I don't care, just somewhere I can breathe. Dominic told the driver a new spot. They ended up in a park, a normal place. They sat on a bench pretending they weren't the product of violent legacies. I keep waiting to feel guilty, Serafina said quietly. For my father, for the order. But I just feel empty. Like something's missing, but I don't know what. That's normal. Grief is messy, even for someone you hated. But is it grief, or just the quiet where all the pain used to be? Maybe it's both. Dominic put his arm on the back of the bench, almost touching her. When my own father died, the first thing I felt was relief, that he couldn't hurt me anymore. But then this weird loss hit me, not for him, but for the father he should have been. That's it. That's exactly it. I'm not mourning him. I'm mourning the dad I never had. She leaned into his space, her shoulder brushing his arm, and didn't move away. Do you think we're broken? Too messed up to ever be normal? Normal was never gonna happen for us. But could we be, if we just ditched all this? You think about leaving? Serafina thought about it. Sometimes. I picture us disappearing, getting new names, starting over where nobody knows us. No violence, no plots, no games. That's a fairy tale. I know, but it's a nice one. She looked at him. Would you do it? If you could just stop being you and be someone else? Dominic was brutally honest. I don't know. This is all I've ever been. I have no clue who I'd be without it. But lately with you, I've wondered if there's more to life than power and fear. What else is there? I don't know. Maybe that's something we find out together. They sat there as the sun went down, watching some couple walk by with their dog, totally oblivious to the two predators sitting on the bench. I start classes next week, Serafina suddenly said. I got into NYU, the education program. That's good. It's what you wanted. It feels weird to want things, to have a future that isn't just about surviving. She hugged her knees to her chest. A month ago, my only goal was to not die. Now I'm making plans. It feels weird. Good weird or bad weird. Hopeful weird. And that scares me. Hope feels like you're just asking for the world to rip something else away. Not everything gets taken. Most things do. People, safety, innocence. This life takes it all. Dominic couldn't argue with that. So what? We just give up and accept that nothing lasts. I don't know. Or maybe we fight for it anyway. Maybe we build something even knowing it could all get blown up. Maybe that's all anyone can do. She looked right at him. Are we building something, or are we just surviving together? What does it feel like to you? It feels like we're figuring each other out, learning not to destroy each other. If that turns into something more, I have no idea yet. Fair enough. But I don't hate you anymore. I thought I would forever. But you're not the monster they said you were. What am I then? Complicated. Deadly, but not for fun. Violent, but with a reason. Capable of terrible things, and also capable of... She trailed off. Of what? Of caring. Even when it's a weakness, you care about my sisters, about me. You hide it under strategy and protecting assets, but it's more than that. Dominic wanted to deny it, to keep up the walls he'd built for 20 years, but it was no use. She saw right through him. Yeah, it's more than that. Since when? Not sure, sometime between watching you shatter on our wedding night and watching you sentence your own father to death. Somewhere in all that chaos, you stopped being a contract and became someone I actually cared about. That's not very romantic. We already established we're not romantic. Nope, definitely not. A smile finally touched her lips and actually reached her eyes. But maybe we're something else, something that works for us. They stayed in the park until the sky turned dark and the city lit up. When they got back to the penthouse, the vibe had shifted. It was lighter. The weeks that followed fell into a new pattern. Serafina's classes brought books and new energy into the apartment. She'd come home talking about teaching and the kids she was tutoring. And so Dominic starts listening. But get this, it's not about business. He's hooked on watching her actually have a passion for something. This is the moment everything changes. He starts ditching the office early for dinner, not 'cause he has to, but because his office feels like a tomb. He's asking about her day and actually hearing the answers. He even tries sharing sanitized bits of his own world, just testing the waters. Then, like 6 weeks after Aldo's funeral, Serafina pops up in her PJs at his door. Can I ask you something weird? He's just like, always. Mind if I just sit with you while you work? I swear I'll be quiet. She says with a little shrug. My room's too quiet tonight. Yeah, of course. So she curls up on his office couch with a book while he reviews contracts. The silence between them is comfortable, not crushing. An hour flies by. Dominic looks up and she's totally asleep. The book is on her chest and her face is peaceful in a way it never is when she's awake. The right move is to wake her and send her to bed. Instead, he grabs a blanket, covers her, and gets back to work. Just her being there, even asleep, makes the cold office feel like a home. She's still there in the morning when he wakes up on the other couch, having crashed himself by accident. She wakes up as he moves, blinking at him, totally confused for a second. Morning. Morning. When she sits up, the blanket falls off. You stayed here too. Looks like it. Why didn't you go to your room? He answers her quietly. I didn't want to leave you alone. You could see the shift on her face. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me, but not leaving me alone. That's a crazy low bar. Welcome to my life, she says, but with a tiny smile. Thank you. After that, the walls between them started to crumble, piece by piece. Serafina, sitting a bit closer at dinner, Dominic's hand on her back walking into a restaurant. Tiny things that used to make her flinch now felt right. And her laugh, a super rare thing, started popping up at his sarcastic jokes. He was getting totally lost in her stories. They were slowly, carefully building a world just for them. But the life they lived doesn't do slow. It always cashes its check. The call came on a Tuesday. It was Victor, his voice stretched tight with fury. We've got a problem. Someone hit our Red Hook warehouse. 2 of our guys are dead. They took $500,000 in product. In minutes, Dominic was out the door. Serafina was standing there, eyes wide with a fear he knew all too well. Be careful. I always am. No, she fired back. You're not. You're reckless, violent. You think you're invincible. She stepped right up to him. But you aren't. So be careful anyway. He wanted to blow it off to put his walls back up, but her eyes held him. I will. The warehouse was a straight-up massacre. 2 bodies under tarps, security feeds wiped. The whole job was clean, pro-level, way too pro for a simple stick-up. Who did this? Dominic demanded from Victor. We don't know yet, but it was surgical. They knew the security rotation, shift changes, exactly where the product was. It had to be an inside job. The only question was who and why. Marcus rolls up 15 minutes later, his face grim. This is bad, real bad. We lose this much, word gets out, we'll look weak. Then we find them and we make them an example. Agreed, but until then, lock down everything. Double security, rotate all shifts, trust no one. For the next 3 days, Dominic went on the hunt. He hit up every contact, every source, chasing ghosts in the shadows. And the answer, when it finally dropped, was a gut punch. It was Tommy Ricci. Victor slid the file across Dominic's desk. Your guy, been with you for 8 years. Tommy? The betrayal hit him like a physical blow. Tommy was solid, reliable, one of the few guys Dominic actually trusted. Are you sure? We've got surveillance of him meeting the buyers. He set up the whole thing, took the product, sold it, and pocketed the cash. But why? Claims he needed money. His kids got serious medical issues. He asked you for a loan 6 months ago. You turned him down. Dominic had a faint memory of it. Tommy's daughter had some rare disease needing an experimental treatment. He'd looked at the request, saw it as a bad investment, and told Tommy to figure it out himself. So, he stole from me. Yes, and killed 2 of our guys doing it. The old Dominic would have had Tommy taken out on the spot. He would have made it a public, brutal spectacle. But now, something stopped him. Where is he? We have him. Waiting on your call. Dominic went to see Tommy himself. Found him in a damp basement, tied to a chair, his face a bloody, defeated mess. When Tommy looked up and saw him, the man just broke. "Boss, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't." "You didn't what? Think I'd find out? Think you wouldn't pay for this?" "My daughter. She's dying. The treatment was $300,000 and I couldn't get it. I asked for help. You said no. I didn't know what else to do. So you rob my house, kill 2 of my men, and betray me. I know it was wrong, but she's my little girl. She's only 8 years old, and I couldn't—" Tommy's voice cracked, turning into sobs. "I couldn't just watch her die." Dominic felt something shatter deep inside him. A month ago, he would have ended Tommy right there. But now he could only see Serafina's face, thinking of her sisters and the insane choices people make when they're trapped. "You should have come to me again. You should have explained." "It was an emergency. I tried. 3 times. Your assistant said you were too busy." The words hit like a fist to the stomach. Tommy had tried. He ran out of options and made a desperate move. "The men you killed, they had families." "I know," Tommy whispered, his voice gone. "That's on me for the rest of my life. But my daughter was dying, and it's all I could see." Dominic pulled out his phone and made a call. "How much for the treatment Tommy Ricci's daughter needs?" $300,000. "Wire the full amount to the hospital today." Tommy just gaped at him, confused. "What are you—" "Your daughter gets her medicine. You get to live. But you're done here. You leave this city. You start over and you never come back. If I even hear your breathing in my direction again, I will finish what I started here tonight. Got it?" "I don't. Why?" "Because I'm trying to be someone different than the man I was. Because my wife showed me mercy isn't always a weakness. Because you're a father who made a horrible choice to save his kid. And I can't punish that without becoming the exact monster they think I am." Dominic turned to Victor. "Let him go. Get him and his family out of town before morning." "Boss! Just do it." Victor did it, but the look on his face screamed that Dominic had finally snapped. And maybe he had. In their world, maybe mercy was just another word for crazy. But Dominic was sick of being a guy whose only talent was breaking things. When he got home that night, Serafina was waiting up. She saw his face and knew right away that something was wrecked. "Tell me." So he did. He told her about Tommy, the betrayal, and the call he made. She listened, her eyes locked on his, and when he finished, she walked across the room and wrapped her arms around him. It was the first time she had ever started something like that. The first time she offered him comfort instead of just taking his protection. For a second, Dominic just stood there, frozen before he slowly, carefully held her back. "You did the right thing," she mumbled into his chest. "Did I? I let a traitor who stole from me just walk. Who killed my men? That doesn't make me right. That makes me weak." "No," she said. "It makes you human. It makes you a man who gets that people aren't just assets or debts, but that they're broken and desperate and trying to survive." She pulled back just enough to look at him. "It makes you someone I think I could really love, eventually." The word love just hung there between them, huge and terrifying. They'd never said it, never even gotten close, but there it was. Unsure, real. "Eventually," he echoed, his voice raw. "I'm not there, not yet. I'm still figuring you out, still trying to decide if this is real. But I think I could be, someday. If we stay on this path, if you keep being this person, not the one you were made to be. So what happens if I screw this up? What if that psycho comes back for round 2? Then he faces me, but I'm betting he won't. I see you changing, maybe not all at once, maybe with some screw-ups, but it's enough. Enough for me to picture a life beyond just surviving. Dominic pulled her in again, feeling her relax. I have no idea what I'm doing, he admitted. How to be with someone, how to care without seeing it as a liability. I don't either. So we'll figure it out together. We'll mess up, then we'll fix it. Then we'll find new ways to mess up. It's what people do. But what if I hurt you, not physically, but just with what I am? Then I get hurt, and we'll handle it. But you're already trying harder than anyone in my entire life ever has. And trying means more than being perfect. Right in the middle of the room, they just held each other. Two broken souls figuring out how to be whole together. This wasn't some fairy tale, no storybook romance for the hopeful, but something gritty, real, and built on a foundation tougher than any fantasy. The contract that kicked this all off was forgotten in a drawer somewhere, its legal jargon a ghost. What they were building now wasn't made of ink, but of sheer will. A hard, messy, and beautifully imperfect choice. In the months that followed, they kept building. Serafina nailed her degree, then her teaching license, landing a job at the school where she used to volunteer. She'd come home exhausted but shining, covered in glitter and marker, to tell Dominic about 6-year-olds who finally cracked their first sentence. While he listened, a pride for her grew inside him, totally separate from any idea of ownership. He began the massive task of pivoting his empire, not ditching it completely. He wasn't stupid enough to think he could just walk away from that life, but he started shifting its focus, moving money from illegal ops to legitimate ones, using his power as a shield instead of a weapon. The whole process was a slow, nasty fight against enemies who wouldn't quit. Still, Victor had his back, and Marcus helped steer the brutal transition. Bit by bit, the organization started to look less like a menace and more like a flawed but powerful force for good. For a while, when Catherine went off the rails, they had Serafina's sisters come live in the penthouse. Emma and Sophie flooded the pristine apartment with loud teenage chaos, and Dominic was surprised to find he actually liked the noise. He got sucked into homework help, learned the ridiculous drama of middle school, and became the sort of uncle they desperately needed. When Catherine finally hit her absolute rock bottom, wasted, broken, and completely alone, it was Serafina who showed her mercy. It wasn't forgiveness, and it definitely wasn't a reunion, but it was enough to get her into treatment. It was enough to keep her alive. In their world, that's what mercy was. Not wiping the slate clean, but just refusing to completely obliterate someone. 1 year after their wedding, the marriage contract came up for review. The lawyers set it down in front of Dominic, full of clauses for renewal and changes. He stared at the pages, his head spinning with everything that had gone down since he first signed the thing. Then he tore it into pieces. His lawyer looked at him, absolutely horrified. "What are you doing?" The move just nuked every single term, ending the contract. The shipping lanes, the turf, they're mine, with or without her. I don't need a piece of paper to hold on to what I built. Dominic got up from his chair. "Get the dissolution papers ready, a clean break." "You're divorcing her?" "I'm giving her an option. She never had one before. She gets one now." He went home that night with the documents in his briefcase. He found Serafina at the kitchen table, lost in grading papers. She looked up when he walked in. "You look serious. Is something wrong?" Nothing's wrong, but we need to talk. He put the documents on the table. Our marriage agreement was up for review. I've canceled it. Her face went completely pale. You want to end this? No. I'm giving you that power. The contract that trapped you is gone. You are free to leave if you want. There will be no strings attached, no payback. Your sisters will be safe. You'll be set for life, but you will be free. Serafina stared at the documents as if they were snakes. Why are you doing this? Because the choice was never yours. Your father sold you. And even though we've made something good from it, it started without your say. Now the decision is yours. You can choose to stay or you can choose to walk. Whatever path you take, it's all you. And if I leave, then you leave. I won't stop you. I won't make it hard. You've earned the right to run your own life. She picked up the papers, her eyes scanning the legal text. Dominic just watched her, seeing the silent battle raging inside her as she weighed the freedom he was offering. At last, she put them down. I am not signing these, Dominic. Her voice was sharp. I'm not signing them because I don't want a divorce. I want to stay here, not because a paper tells me to, but because I am choosing to, because what we've built matters to me, because you matter to me. She got up and walked around the table until she was right in front of him. I love you. I can't tell you exactly when it started. Maybe somewhere between you taking down my father and you letting Tommy Ritchie live. But it's true. I love you, and I choose to stay your wife. Not your prisoner, but your partner. Dominic felt one last wall inside him just collapse, a defense he didn't even know was still there. I love you too, he admitted. I have no idea how to do this right. I'll probably screw it up all the time, but I love you more than I ever thought I could love anyone. That's when she kissed him for the first real time. Not the hollow gesture from their wedding, but a kiss made from a powerful choice. He returned it with a soft reverence, holding her like she was something sacred, not like she was something he owned. When they finally broke apart, she was crying. They were tears of joy this time, not fear or sadness. So this is what we're doing, actually choosing each other. If you'll have me, he said, knowing I'm still a dangerous man and that a part of me always will be. I'm not looking for a saint. I'm asking for you, all of you. The broken pieces and the pieces trying to mend, that's all I want. Then that's what you'll get. They stood in the kitchen, surrounded by school assignments and legal papers that would never be signed. Two people who started as a cold business deal had somehow found a way to be real. It was not the story anyone would have written for them. It had none of the classic signs of romance, but it was all theirs. It was messy and hard and built on brutal honesty instead of a pretty lie. That evening, for the first time since they got married, Serafina didn't go back to her own bedroom. She took Dominic by the hand and led him to his room, which was now their room. What happened next was gentle and unhurried, filled with the deep trust they had spent a year building. It wasn't perfect. There were still flashes of her old fear. He still had to consciously check his own nature, but it was real, and it was chosen, and that made it so much more valuable than perfection. Later, as she laid in the dark with her head on his chest, Serafina's voice cut through the silence. Do you ever have regrets about the contract, about how we started? Dominic thought about her question with complete honesty. I regret what it did to you, the terror, the theft of your freedom, everything you went through because of your father. But I can't regret the road that brought us to this, because I never would have found this otherwise. I never would have found you. And I wouldn't have found you, she whispered. As awful as it was, I can't regret it, because it made me stronger. Someone who knows what she wants and will fight for it. Someone who can love a complicated, dangerous man and not be swallowed by him. Is that what you're doing? Loving a dangerous man? That is exactly what I'm doing. And you're loving a woman who has learned to be dangerous herself. We seem to be good at that, making each other stronger, not weaker. Yes, he agreed. We are. They fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, and for the first time since their wedding night, they both slept soundly. There were no nightmares, no creeping dread, only the calm comfort of two souls who had picked each other against all odds. The years that followed weren't easy. Dominic's past had a way of catching up. Old enemies, old scores to settle, the constant threat that was part of the life he'd built. But they faced it all as a unit. Serafina learned to navigate his world with the same grit she used in her classroom. He learned to put her safety and happiness above his own hunger for power. They argued, they made up, they argued some more. They learned each other's boundaries and how to talk when it was tough. Emma and Sophie grew up protected and loved, never knowing the full, dark truth about their brother-in-law's job or what their own father had planned for them. So get this. All they knew was that Serafina was vibing. Dominic was like family, and they finally felt a level of safety that was completely new. The Don starts this massive overhaul on his empire, trying to make the whole thing look legit. Mostly, anyway. You can't exactly scrub out every single stain. But it was enough for the guy to finally get some sleep. Enough that Serafina saw a man trying to claw his way back, not some monster enjoying the chaos. For their 5-year anniversary, Dominic takes Serafina back to that exact park from after her dad's funeral. They crash on the same bench watching the river, a whole 5 years older and totally transformed. Serafina hits him with, "You remember what we talked about here? You asked if I'd ever just dip out, start fresh somewhere else. So would you? Now." Dominic actually had to think about it. Nah, not anymore. This is what we've got. It's a disaster. It's screwed up and sometimes dangerous, but it's ours. I'm not running from it. I want to keep building it into something better. Same here. She put her head on his shoulder, a move she would never have pulled on that insane first night. We did okay, right? For two people who started as a pure business deal. We did way better than okay. We built something real out of something absolutely nightmarish. That's no small feat. No, she whispered back. It's literally everything. They chilled until the sun went down, just like they did 5 years ago. But this time when they left, they were heading home together. Not to a prison, but to a life they actually forged, and a marriage that started on paper but was now etched into their souls. And look, their ending wasn't some Disney movie. There was no instant fix, no perfect fairy tale, just two completely shattered people figuring out how to love each other through the absolute wreckage of their lives. They took a contract born from pure terror and turned it into a partnership they actually chose and believed in. In a world running on power, violence, and broken promises, flipping the script like that was the biggest power move you could imagine. Dominic Varley built his entire life on the idea that strength was the only thing that mattered. Kindness was a death wish. and getting attached was a liability. Serafina Vale had spent her whole life thinking she was worthless unless someone was using her, that surviving meant being invisible, and that love just meant pain. Yeah, they were both so wrong, and smashing their lives together proved it. They found out the biggest strength comes from dropping your guard, that mercy takes way more guts than cruelty, and that real love means seeing every part of a person. It means witnessing all their darkest moments and their most desperate plays, and picking them anyway. That marriage contract that kicked this whole thing off is now shredded and forgotten. Totally irrelevant. But the marriage itself is solid, way stronger, because they want it, not because they were ordered into it. And that one choice made fresh every day in small ways and big moments was worth more than any legal document ever could be.
Life lesson: violence does not end when blood dries. It survives through the beliefs people inherit about love, duty, and worth. There is a quiet tragedy at the heart of Dominic and Serafina's story, and it is not the contract. It is not the forced wedding. It is not even the criminal world that surrounds them. The true tragedy is that both of them were raised inside systems that taught the same lesson through different methods. Love is conditional, power is protection, and tenderness is dangerous. Dominic becomes the visible expression of violence. Serafina becomes its invisible consequence. He is the man who learned to turn fear into architecture. He builds his world out of intimidation because his earliest education taught him that vulnerability invites pain. He does not become ruthless by accident. He becomes ruthless by inheritance. Not biological inheritance, but emotional inheritance. He is the child of humiliation who grows into the adult of domination. He does not merely reject weakness, he wages war against it, first in himself, then in everyone around him. Serafina inherits a different version of the same sickness. She is not taught to dominate. She is taught to disappear. If Dominic embodies violence as force, Serafina embodies violence as internal erasure. Her family trains her to believe that her highest value lies in what she can absorb, what she can surrender, what she can silently survive. Her body becomes a diplomatic tool. Her obedience becomes an offering. Her fear becomes irrelevant the moment the family needs a solution. This is where the story becomes larger than mafia romance. It becomes an anatomy of the cycle of violence. Violence is often misunderstood as a moment, a gunshot, a slap, a threat, a kidnapping attempt. But the deeper truth is that violence usually begins as an idea long before it becomes an action. It begins in the belief that one person exists for another person's use. It begins when children learn that being loved requires performance. It begins when masculinity is mistaken for control and femininity is mistaken for endurance. By the time blood appears, the philosophy behind it has already taken root. Dominic thinks he is acquiring a wife. In reality, he is confronting a mirror. Serafina's terror forces him to see the moral shape of his own power. Her fear is not just emotional reaction, it is interpretation. She interprets him as the logical endpoint of the system that already consumed her. In her eyes, he is not a man. He is the final form of male entitlement. He is the contract with a heartbeat. And that is why her fear disturbs him so deeply. Not because he is misunderstood, but because he is understood too well. There is a brilliant irony here. Dominic has lived comfortably with being feared by enemies, but he cannot bear being feared by someone innocent. The difference matters. Fear among rivals confirms hierarchy. Fear in the eyes of the vulnerable reveals corruption. One reinforces identity, the other indicts it. This is the first great lesson in their story. A person's self-image collapses fastest when confronted by the harm that power inflicts on the defenseless. Serafina's evolution is equally significant. At first glance, her journey looks like a movement from fear to trust, but that description is too simplistic. Her deeper movement is from objecthood to authorship. She begins as something arranged, managed, and exchanged by others. Her life has been narrated for her: daughter, duty, bargaining chip, wife. Every role is assigned externally. What she gradually reclaims is not merely safety, but authorship over her own moral decisions. When she stops accepting her father's behavior as sacrifice and starts naming it as exploitation, she crosses an invisible threshold. Language matters here. To rename abuse is to resist it. To identify coercion is to weaken its spell. Her awakening is not dramatic in the heroic sense. It is intellectual, emotional, and devastatingly adult. She sees that family duty was simply greed clothed in moral language. She sees that being good really meant being easier to consume. And once she sees it, she cannot unknow it. This is the second lesson. Healing often begins not with forgiveness, but with accurate naming. The story also interrogates a particularly destructive form of masculinity. Dominic and Aldo are both men of power, but they represent different expressions of corrupted manhood. Aldo hides his cruelty inside respectability. He weaponizes family rhetoric, appearance, and social performance. Dominic, by contrast, is honest about the fact that his power is built on violence. In a paradoxical way, this honesty becomes the beginning of his redemption. Aldo's evil lies in pretending exploitation is care. Dominic's redemption begins the moment he stops pretending that ownership can ever be mistaken for love. This distinction is philosophically important. The most dangerous people are not always always the visibly brutal. Often, they are the ones who moralize their brutality so effectively that everyone around them mistakes compliance for virtue. Aldo does not merely sell his daughter, he reframes the sale as honor. That is what makes him monstrous. He colonizes her conscience before anyone ever colonizes her body. And so the story's emotional climax is not simply that Dominic protects Serafina, it is that Serafina learns to distrust the moral language that once imprisoned her. She begins to ask a revolutionary question: who benefits from my silence? Once that question enters a human life, old structures start cracking. Dominic's change, too, is worth examining carefully. He does not become good in the conventional sense. He remains dangerous. He remains implicated in violence. But he does begin to discover restraint, and restraint is ethically significant because it represents the interruption of inherited instinct. He has every structural permission to dominate Serafina. The contract allows it. Her fear anticipates it. His world would normalize it, yet he refuses. That refusal does not erase his past, but it does create a fracture in the cycle. That fracture is the third lesson. Redemption rarely begins with purity. It begins with refusal. Refusal to repeat what formed you. Refusal to turn access into entitlement. Refusal to make another person pay for the pain that built you. In the end, what makes this story profound is not that two damaged people fall in love. It is that they force each other to confront the ideologies that shaped them. Dominic learns that care without control is possible. Serafina learns that love without self-erasure is possible. Both of them learn that violence survives not just through weapons, but through stories people are taught to tell about duty, gender, and worth. And perhaps that is the final lesson. A cycle of violence is broken not when conflict disappears, but when someone chooses not to pass the old logic forward. Dominic does it imperfectly. Serafina does it painfully. But together they begin to imagine a world in which strength is no longer measured by how much fear a person can generate, but by how much fear a person can refuse to exploit.